Chapter 1632. A chaotic battle. If you don't tell me, I won't help you find the crystal coffin. Ningyu said angrily. There was a way to deal with the 100-armed demon, but the sapling insisted on messing around. After all, the 100-armed demon was extremely powerful. It would be bad if Hu Wentian and the others died. I'll tell you, all right? The sapling had no choice but to say, even if we find the crystal coffin and open it with the golden key, we won't be able to obtain the world tree branch inside. We have to use the small world. Could it be that the world tree branch inside the crystal coffin is alive? Ningyu's heart trembled. You can say that. The sapling did not hide anything this time. Actually, I'm thinking of throwing the crystal coffin into the small world, then the small world into the spatial ring, and the spatial ring into the Tower of Yuzu. With these 3 layers of protection, we should be able to obtain the world tree branch inside the crystal coffin. Ningyu rolled his eyes when he heard that. Was there a need for that? If even the spatial ring and the Tower of Yuzu couldn't control the crystal coffin, then even a small world would be useless. Quick, control the small world and defeat the 100-armed demon, Ningyu said. We have a lot of enemies to deal with. Let's get rid of each one. Don't think of any unscrupulous methods. All right. The sapling agreed and began to control the small world inside the crystal ball. Crack. Under the control of the sapling, the crystal ball suddenly cracked open and the small world inside spread toward the 100-armed demon. Shit. The 100-armed demon was indeed a late-stage heavenly supreme cultivator of the demon spirit realm. The moment the small world opened, she immediately sensed something amiss and retreated. However, the area was only so big. The 100-armed demon only took a few steps back before her back was against the stone wall. Creak. Just as the small world was about to suck the 100-armed demon in, a sudden change occurred. The wall behind the 100-armed demon suddenly cracked open, and 3 figures dashed into it. Come back. This change not only scared the 100-armed ghost demon into retreating, but even Ningyu's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly ordered the sapling to return to the small world. Without knowing if the other party was a friend or foe, Ningyu did not want to take the risk. Shio. The sapling was not a hothead. As soon as Ningyu said that, he controlled the small world and charged towards Ningyu. Go in. Ningyu reacted quickly, and he hurriedly opened his storage ring to allow his miniature world to enter it. Ningyu didn't have to worry about the sapling in his storage ring. Whoosh. 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 After keeping the miniature world, Ningyu stared at the 3 figures rushing out of the stone wall with a grave expression. Of the 3 figures in front of him, one was a white-haired old man, another was a short and fat old man, and the last one was a woman wearing a bamboo hat. Ningyu did not pay much attention to the woman wearing the bamboo hat, because her cultivation was too low to be feared. As for the other 2, Ningyu found them tricky. Mid-heavenly supreme. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man were both mid-heavenly supreme. From the aura they emitted, Ningyu could basically conclude that they were only 1 step away from the late heavenly supreme. 100-armed ghost demon, I didn't expect to see you here. The white-haired old man's gaze swept across the area for a while, then fell on the 100-armed ghost demon, and he said sinisterly, You left ahead of us, but you still failed to rescue Senior. Aren't you too useless? Wrong. The short and fat old man waved his hand and said, Not useless, but extremely useless. Crack crack. The 100-armed ghost demon was a little relieved to hear the first half of the short and fat old man's words. But when she heard the second half, she clenched her fists and said coldly, No matter how useless I am, I'm still stronger than the 2 of you. You're already so old, but you've only reached the mid-heavenly supreme. Have you been cultivating for so many years? You're courting death. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man said in unison, seemingly intending to fight the 100-armed ghost demon. Let's fight. It's best if we fight. Seeing that the white-haired old man and the 100-armed ghost demon were in conflict, Ningyu's worry eased a little. If the 100-armed ghost demon and the white-haired old man joined hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. The small world could deal with the 100-armed ghost demon, but that was because the 100-armed ghost demon had left too much soul force in the small world. Against the small world, the the 100-armed ghost demon couldn't put up much resistance. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man were different. The small world alone couldn't pose much of a threat to them. We're all in the demon spirit realm. Why don't we join hands and get rid of them first? Suddenly, the 100-armed ghost demon's killing intent vanished, and he began discussing cooperation with the white-haired old man and the others. Get rid of them? Hearing the 100-armed ghost demon's words, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man were stunned. They pointed at Huantian's group and said, an injured pinnacle Heavenly Supreme and 10 initial phase Heavenly Supreme 9-tailed demonic foxes. Not a weak force. What about the other two? The 100-armed ghost demon pointed at Ningyu and Xie. After we deal with them, I'll leave all the 9-tailed demonic foxes to you. I only want those two. 2 pieces of trash. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man were stunned. They had no idea what the 100-armed ghost demon was planning. He didn't want the 9-tailed demonic fox in the Heavenly Supreme realm, but he insisted on 2 pieces of trash in the Earth Supreme realm. That's right. I only want those 2 pieces of trash. The 100-armed ghost demon nodded. Forget it. Up to you. If you want trash, we'll give them to you when the time comes. The white-haired old man shrugged. The 2 of us will deal with the 9-tailed demonic fox. You deal with those 2. Swish, swish. As they spoke, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man charged at Huantian's group. Damn it. Seeing the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man fighting, the 100-armed ghost demon was so angry that he wanted to kill them. How could she deal with Ningyu and Xie? The small world was still in Ningyu's hands. As long as Ningyu activated the small world, she wouldn't be able to resist. I heard that you want to kill us 2 pieces of trash. Ningyu glanced at the other side of the battlefield before his gaze fell on the 100-armed ghost demon. We're standing right here. You can come and kill us if you want. Don't get cocky. The 100-armed ghost demon said coldly. If I don't kill you, you won't dare to kill me. You're right. We don't dare to kill you. Ningyu nodded. But we can use the small world as bait and let those 2 old men act on our behalf. They're in the demon spirit realm. Do you think they'll believe you? The 100-armed ghost demon sneered. In the face of absolute benefits, they have no choice but to believe me. Chapter 1633. Whipping they'll kill you and take away all the saint-grade origin crystals you have. The 100-armed demon shrugged and said, as long as you say it, they will do it. I can guarantee you that. Hey, looks like you're not that stupid after all. Ningyu let out a smile and said, let's make a deal. You and Huantian will team up and kill those 2 old men, and I will swear an oath to the heavens that I will not attack you within 3 days. You want to make a deal with me? No problem, but give me back the miniature world first. The 100-armed demon's heart skipped a beat before she said. The 100-armed demon was not an idiot. She would definitely be able to see through Ningyu's obvious scheme. The sandpiper and clam fight, and the fisherman reaps the benefits. If she were to fight the white-haired old man, Ningyu would most likely turn on her as soon as the battle ended. No problem. Ningyu did not reject the 100-armed demon's request. He took out a storage bag from his Sumeru ring and shook it in his hand. The miniature world is inside this storage bag. Once you swear an oath to the heavens, I will give it to you immediately. Are you kidding me? How would I know if there's a miniature? The 100-armed demon said coldly. However, the 100-armed demon's voice came to a halt before she could finish her sentence. Because the 100-armed demon could indeed see the miniature world inside the storage bag. Does he really want to return the miniature world to me? The 100-armed demon's eyes locked onto the storage bag and asked in confusion. What's your decision? Ningyu shook the storage bag again and asked. I've changed my mind. Open the miniature world. I want to withdraw my force of soul from the miniature world. The 100-armed demon pondered for a moment before she said in a deep voice, I'm not lying to you this time. Once I withdraw my force of soul, I will swear an oath to the heavens and help you deal with those 2 old men. As you wish. Ningyu did not reject the 100-armed demon's offer. He secretly contacted the sapling and asked it to release its control over the miniature world. Shio. As soon as the sapling released its control over the small world, the 100-armed devil took back the soul power that was left in the small world. Withdrawing his soul power, the 100-armed devil showed a relieved expression. It didn't matter if she lost the small world, as long as she didn't let Ningyu get hold of it. Now, can we join forces with Hu Wentian to deal with those two old men? Ningyu's voice was transmitted to the 100-armed devil's ears. After this is done, one for each of us. All right. The 100-armed devil stepped on the ground with his right foot and was the first to join the battle. What the hell are you doing? The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man had been suppressing Hu Wentian and the others to the point where they could hardly breathe, leaving them no room to retaliate at all. But with the addition of the 100-armed devil, Hu Wentian and the rest were completely freed. The 100-armed devil dealt with the white-haired old man, while Hu Wentian brought 10 Sky Supreme 9-tailed demonic foxes to deal with the short and fat old man. Seeing that the feast that was in his hands was ruined by the 100-armed devil, the white-haired old man immediately reprimanded, "We've worked so hard to deal with the 9-tailed demonic foxes for you, and not only are you not grateful to us, you even want to make us your enemy. In the face of absolute benefits, why should I be grateful to you?" The 100-armed devil retorted, "With my strength, I can only suppress one of you and the short and fat old man. If the two of you join forces, I will die without a burial. But the 9-tailed demonic foxes and the rest are different. Even if they join forces, they won't be able to suppress me completely." Since the 100-armed demonic devil had put it this way, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man finally understood. After understanding the situation, the white-haired old man wished he could chop the 100-armed devil into pieces. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have recklessly dealt with Hu Wentian and the rest. If he had joined forces with Hu Wentian and the rest to deal with the 100-armed devil, the two of them would definitely be the ones to benefit in the end. But it was too late to say anything now. The white-haired old man could only fight the 100-armed devil with all his might, hoping that he could severely injure the 100-armed devil. The white-haired old man still held on to a glimmer of hope. As long as the short and fat old man could kill Hu Wentian and the rest, he would have a chance of survival. In the face of reality, ideals were just ideals. 10 minutes passed. Under the powerful attacks of Hu Wentian and the 10 9-tailed demonic foxes, the short and fat old man was careless and was hit in the chest, sending his body flying. Peng! Poochie! Crashing heavily into the stone wall, the short and fat old man spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura fell to rock bottom. No. Seeing that the short and fat old man was defeated, the white-haired old man raised his head and shouted, "You dare to be distracted while fighting me? I think you must be tired of living." The white-haired old man's momentary daze cost him his blood. The 100-armed devil seized the opportunity and punched the old man in the chest, sending him flying and crashing heavily into the stone wall on the other side. The short and fat old man and the white-haired old man were sitting on the ground, one on the left and the other on the right. "I want the white-haired old man." The 100-armed devil glanced at Ningyu coldly and walked toward the white-haired old man. "What are you trying to do?" Looking at the 100-armed devil that was approaching him, the white-haired old man shouted, "We are both in the devil's spirit realm. If you dare to devour me, my family will definitely not let you off." Noisy. The 100-armed devil kicked the white-haired old man's head. The huge force made the white-haired old man dizzy and see stars. Die. Since the 100-armed devil had decided to attack, she would not hold back. She waved her hands continuously, and in an instant, illusory palm images appeared. Pa pa pa. Although they were illusory palm images, each of them landed a solid blow on the white-haired old man's face. Not long after, the white-haired old man's head was beaten into a pig's head. Devour. After beating the white-haired old man into a pig's head, the 100-armed devil quickly used her trump card to devour the white-haired old man. Voila. However, just when the 100-armed devil was about to devour the white-haired old man, a sudden change occurred. The void suddenly split open, and a waist-thick yuan qi chain suddenly appeared and fiercely whipped toward the 100-armed devil. Not good. This change obviously shocked the 100-armed devil. With no time to think, the 100-armed devil hurriedly retreated, trying to dodge the waist-thick yuan qi chain. The 100-armed devil had a good idea. but in reality, she was half a beat too slow. Pa. The Yuan Qi chain was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had whipped the 100-armed devil's face. A crisp sound rang out. A thin and long bloody mark appeared on the 100-armed devil's face. As for the 100-armed devil, she was whipped and flew backward, falling beside the white-haired old man. Seeing that the 100-armed devil was whipped by the Yuan Qi chain, Ningyu hurriedly stopped devouring the short and fat old man. One could imagine that if Ningyu dared to continue devouring the short and fat old man, the Yuan Qi chain would definitely whip him. Who is it? Chapter 1634. Chapter 1634. Chapter 1634 appear at the end pa. Just as the 100-armed devil shouted, the essence Qi chain appeared again and whipped his other cheek. The burning sensation on his face caused the 100-armed devil's expression to turn ugly. He hadn't even seen the enemy's face, but there were already 2 bloody scars on his face. Anyone in his position would be furious. However, the 100-armed devil's irritation only lasted for a short while before he returned to normal. Damn it! At this point, the 100-armed devil had already recognized the reality. The more he jumped, the more tragic and miserable his ending would be. Voila! Perhaps it was because the 100-armed devil had become obedient, the essence Qi chain directly melted into the void and disappeared. Only when the essence Qi chains disappeared did the 100-handed devil let out a long sigh of relief. To be honest, the pressure from the essence Qi chains on the 100-armed ghost demon was too great. It was so great that the 100-armed ghost demon didn't even dare to let out a fart. It's time to fulfill my promise. After waiting for a while and making sure that the vitality chain wouldn't appear, the 100-armed devil's mind became active again. She moved closer to Ningyu and said in a low voice, "Give me the small world." "My apologies." Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, "I won't give you the small world before you kill the white-haired old man." "You." The 100-armed ghost demon clenched his fists tightly. He couldn't wait to kill Ningyu. But now, the 100-armed devil was very calm. He was not impulsive at all. If he rashly attacked and killed Ningyu, it was very likely that he would attract the vitality chains again. The 100-armed devil did not want to experience the might of the essence Qi chain a second time. Since they were trapped in this area, as long as Ningyu did not leave with the small world, everything would be fine. Catcher. At this moment, the stone wall near the 100-armed devil suddenly caved in. Damn it! Seeing that the stone wall had caved in, the 100-armed devil hurriedly retreated. Shoo! 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 Just as the 100-armed devil took a few steps back, 3 figures dashed out from the sunken stone wall. I can't believe it. As soon as the 3 figures appeared, apart from the 100-armed devil, even Ningyu and Huwentian couldn't help but curse. Pinnacle Heavenly Supreme, 3 Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm Cultivators. No, to be precise, it should be 3 Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm Demonic Beasts. Although the 3 figures were in human form, Ningyu and the 100-armed devil knew very well that these 3 figures were actually demonic beasts. A Pinnacle Sky Supreme Demonic Beast was extremely powerful. The combined strength of these 3 figures could even rival a half-saint realm human. What is this place? 3 figures, 2 tall and 1 short. The first to speak was the shortest figure. His gaze first swept across the 100-armed demon and the rest before stopping on Ningyu. Tell me the truth and I can spare your life. Gulp. Although he didn't know why the shortest demonic beast chose him, Ningyu was very clear that he had to be smarter. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. We're trapped. Right now, we're in a magic array, Ningyu said carefully. What? The shorter demonic beast's eyes opened wide, and his eyeballs were round and round as he said in a cold voice, "You better speak clearly, or I'll kill you." As he spoke, the shortest demonic beast unleashed his aura, suppressing Ningyu. How arrogant. Just as the shortest demonic beast's aura was about to suppress Ningyu, a strange change occurred. A cold snort resounded in the area. Kai. Subsequently, the void split apart and a figure stood firmly in front of Ningyu. Di Shitian. The figure that suddenly appeared was precisely Di Shitian. At this moment, Di Shitian stood in front of Ningyu with his hands behind his back. His brows arched as he arrogantly looked at the shortest demonic beast. I want to see how you're going to kill my friends. Swish. Swish. Di Shitian's appearance caused the expressions of the other two demonic beasts to drastically change. They hurriedly flew in front of the shortest demonic beast and stood side by side with him. Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's the three heroes of the Moling mountain range. Seeing the two taller cultivators standing on the left and right of the shortest, the corner of Di Shitian's mouth curled up as he sinisterly said, "It's rumored that the three heroes of the Moling mountain range have unfathomable cultivation and are incomparably powerful. But from the looks of it, they're merely SOSO. If you're tactful, hurry up and release our friends. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer," one of the taller cultivators coldly said, seemingly intending to make a move. That's right. Back then, when Master was in seclusion, you guys executed an extremely vicious array and captured 5 of our pinnacle heavenly sovereign companions. This time, the reason why we're here is to rescue our companions, the other taller cultivator coldly said. I'm sorry. Back then, I could capture your companions. Now, I can capture you guys. Di Shitian slowly shook his head as he coldly said, "Let me give you guys a piece of advice. Hurry up and surrender. Otherwise, this place will be the place of your deaths. Kill." The 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm demonic beasts had always been arrogant. How could they endure Di Shitian's provocation? The 3 of them exchanged glances and could see the killing intent in each other's eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 figures, 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm demonic beasts, charged towards Di Shitian from 3 different directions. Facing the 3 heavenly sovereign realm demonic beasts, Di Shitian wasn't the slightest bit afraid. On the contrary, he chased after them and took the initiative to attack. Have you lost your mind? Seeing that Di Shitian actually took the initiative to attack, the 100-armed devil couldn't help exclaiming. I think you've forgotten the pain after your wounds healed. From the start, Ningyu didn't believe that Di Shitian would lose. Di Shitian even dared to scheme against a half-saint, not to mention 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm demonic beasts. Huala, huala, huala. As expected, Ningyu's guess was right. As Di Shitian's silhouette dashed out, 3 yuan chi chains appeared in front of him. Di Shitian waved his hands and the energy chains tore through space, each corresponding to a pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm demonic beast. Pa, pa, pa. Under the powerful pressure of the energy chains, the 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm demonic beasts didn't even have the time to dodge and were slapped in the face. 3 bloody marks appeared on the faces of the 3 demonic beasts. I forgot to tell you guys something. In this array, I'm the absolute ruler. Succeeding in his attack, Di Shitian retracted the yuan chi chains as he indifferently stated, you guys still have 1 more day to live. In this 1 day, I hope that you guys will behave yourselves and not kill each other. If not, I will let you guys know the meaning of cruelty. Buzz. Chapter 1635. Crystal Coffin Crash. The moment Di Shitian disappeared, the 3 pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm demonic beasts became enraged. They wanted to start a massacre in this region. Swish. However, before the 3 demonic beasts could make a move, Di Shitian appeared once again. I've thought about it again, and I feel that I can't let you guys stay together. Di Shitian made a grabbing motion with his right hand, and in an instant, a huge energy chain appeared in his hand. In the next instant, Di Shitian swung the energy chain in his hand, dividing the area into 4 regions. Ningyu and Hu Wentian were in one region, the 100-armed devil and the white-haired elder were in another, and the 3 pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm demonic beasts were in another. As for the last region, it was empty, as though it was waiting for something. Very well, we'll meet again in a day. Di Shitian kept the energy chain and nodded his head in satisfaction. His figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. This time, an hour after Di Shitian disappeared, the 3 pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm demonic beasts cautiously approached the boundary of the region. In fact, the shorter demonic beast even stretched out his hand, wanting to touch the barrier. Kai Kai. Just as his hand touched the barrier, The shorter demonic beast hurriedly retracted it. Although his speed was fast, the shorter demonic beast's hand still turned pitch black. The shorter demonic beast's face turned ugly. Fortunately, his reaction was fast, or his right hand would have been sliced in two. What barrier is this? Why is it so powerful? One of the taller demonic beast looked at the shorter demonic beast's hand, then at the barrier. We have to think of a way to leave. The other demonic beast didn't bother to check the barrier. His thoughts were simple. If they couldn't leave within a day, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Shitian's expression was so calm and collected. One could very well imagine that the fate of their 5 companions who were captured boded ill rather than well. If they couldn't leave quickly, they might even die here. Ningyu, what should we do now? Hu Wentian didn't care about the actions of the 3 pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm demonic beasts. At this point, Hu Wentian had placed all his hopes on Ningyu. After all, it was impossible for him and 10 Sky Supreme nine-tailed foxes to break out of the formation. Even if they could break the formation, they wouldn't be able to escape the pursuit of Di Shitian and the rest. Don't worry, let me think about it. Ningyu waved his hand and sat down on the ground with his legs crossed. His consciousness sank into his storage ring. The current situation had already exceeded Ningyu's expectations. If he relied on the plan he had formulated beforehand, not only would he not be able to escape, he would also cause Guoliang and Master Zhao to fall into the trap. The only thing he could do now was to communicate with the sapling and see if it had any ideas. Or rather, to contact the mysterious expert within the Tower of the Supremacy of Yu. However, ever since Ningyu discovered that he was trapped in the formation, he had been trying to contact the mysterious expert in the Tower of Yuzuan. The result was regrettable. No matter what Ningyu did, he couldn't contact the mysterious expert in the Tower of the Supremacy of Yuzuan. Not only that, with Ningyu's perception, he couldn't even enter the 10th level of the Tower of the Supremacy of Yuzuan. Seal the Tower of the Supremacy of Yuzuan. The mysterious expert had sealed the space above the 10th level of the Tower of the Supremacy of Yuzuan. For Ningyu, this bad news was really like a rain that poured on a roof. That was why Ningyu had placed all his hopes on the sapling. Ignoring Hu Wentian's question, Ningyu blocked off all external interference and began to converse with the sapling. There was no need for Ningyu to explain the current situation to the sapling. Break the formation and leave, or find Di Shitian and the other experts in the Saint-grade crystal mine and kill them all in one fell swoop. Of course, killing Di Shitian and the other experts was extremely difficult as ascending to the heavens. The sapling wouldn't consider this method for the time being. After pondering for a moment, the sapling said, using a small-scale world, I might be able to forcefully open a small hole and send you out. How high is the success rate? Ningyu asked. Less than 10%. The sapling replied. So low? Ningyu's heart thumped. With such a low success rate, it was almost impossible to accomplish. If you can divert Di Shitian's attention, I can raise the success rate to 20%. The sapling said unhappily, under Di Shitian's gaze, a success rate of less than 10% is already very good. Alright, luring Di Shitian away is a difficult task. Ningyu drew in a deep breath, a helpless expression on his face. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was about to say something, the entire region started to shake. Also, the frequency of the shaking increased, faster and faster. Crash. Even the surrounding stone walls started to collapse. All sorts of huge rocks fell from the sky, landing in the 4 regions. Luckily, Ningyu and the rest's cultivation wasn't restricted. Otherwise, the rocks that fell from the sky would be enough to smash them into meat paste. Not good, there's a problem with the crystal coffin. The sudden change caused the faces of Di Shitian and the rest who were hiding in another room to change drastically. Crack. The crystals on the walls of the room suddenly shattered. The shattering of the crystal meant that Di Shitian and the rest had no way of knowing what happened to Ningyu and the rest. Di Shitian, go and stabilize the formation. Don't let the prey escape. I'll bring them to the crystal coffin to see what problem the old ancestor has encountered. Di Feng immediately ordered Di Shitian to take care of the array while he brought the two late heavenly sovereigns to the crystal coffin. Buzz! Di Feng's figure flickered, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The two late-stage heavenly sovereigns also followed behind Di Feng and disappeared, fusing into the void. Why would the crystal coffin riot at this time? Seeing Di Feng disappear, Di Shitian couldn't help feeling annoyed. Originally, everything was going according to plan. They were just waiting for Ningyu's half-step Saint Master to come over so that they could activate the formation and transfer the refined energy to the old ancestor who was guarding the crystal coffin. Then, the old ancestor would refine the entire crystal coffin. Who would have thought that there would be a change at such a crucial moment? Di Shitian knew better than anyone that the crystal coffin riot was definitely because the demon spirit realm expert imprisoned in the crystal coffin had awakened. One should know that the demon spirit realm expert imprisoned in the crystal coffin was a genuine saint realm expert. Although he had been suppressed in the crystal coffin for so many years, a saint was still a saint. Once he broke out of the coffin, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the very least, the old half-step saint from the Emperor God Palace couldn't suppress him. Let's stabilize the formation first. If there's no other way, I'll activate the formation in advance and refine them all. Di Shitian's silhouette flickered, flying towards the direction of the formation as he thought to himself. At this time, he had to be decisive without the slightest bit of hesitation. Otherwise, the Emperor God Palace would be annihilated. Chapter 1636. Shatter. Rumble. Di Shitian's speed was extremely fast. It didn't take long for him to appear in the formation. However, at this moment, the formation was already in ruins. The 4 barriers that he had set up had also disappeared. The 4 regions had once again merged into one. Most importantly, the formation was on the verge of collapse, and there were areas where it seemed to be cracking. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the formation was completely destroyed. No, I have to activate the formation. Di Shitian decisively decided to activate the formation and refine the 100-armed devil and the rest. Both of his hands formed seals. Di Shitian shouted, "Limitless heaven and earth, open for me." Following the sound of Di Shitian's voice, a violent devouring force appeared within the formation. The devouring power first appeared beside the pinnacle sky supreme demonic beast. In just a single exchange, a third of the demonic beast's energy was devoured. The formation is in chaos now. Everyone, join hands to deal with Di Shitian. We have to kill him before he activates the formation. The other 2 pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts shouted when they saw the energy in the shorter demonic beast's body rapidly decreasing. As they shouted, they charged towards Di Shitian. Take the lead. The 2 pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts decided to fight Di Shitian with their lives. Because of the formation's chaos, coupled with the 2 pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts' attacks, Di Shitian couldn't activate the formation and the devouring power within a short period of time. And the formation was in chaos, causing a huge impact on Di Shitian. At this moment, it was already extremely difficult for Di Shitian to gain the absolute advantage like before. Right now, he could only bitterly hold on. So much so that if the formation was in chaos again, he might not be a match for the pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts. What should we do? Hu Wentian asked with a grave expression when he saw Di Shitian fighting the 2 demonic beasts. What else can we do? Of course, we have to help. Ningyu said solemnly. Ningyu was clear that this was the best time to leave. If he missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one. Only when the formation was in chaos would he be able to kill Di Shitian and leave this damned place. Without the restriction of the formation, Ningyu believed that he wouldn't be in such a sorry state if he encountered experts from Emperor Divine Palace again. All right. Hu Wentian also trusted Ningyu unconditionally. He stomped on the ground and quickly rushed out to join the battle. Voila! After Hu Wentian made his move, the 10 initial phase heavenly sovereigns behind him also charged out. Originally, Di Shitian was already on the verge of collapsing. Now that Hu Wentian and the rest had joined in, Di Shitian had no way of dealing with them. Hu Wentian, if you dare to attack me again, I'll trigger the black gas in your body and you'll die a horrible death. Di Shitian was very intelligent. Seeing that he could not hold on any longer, he used the black gas to threaten Hu Wentian. Di Shitian, as long as you hand over the antidote, I will make Hu Wentian stop. Ning Yu's brows twitched as he hurriedly shouted at Di Shitian. At his peak, Hu Wentian was a pinnacle heavenly supreme. If he could convince Hu Wentian to join the Supreme Hall, the strength of the Supreme Hall would definitely rise by a level. Di Shitian's threat allowed Ning Yu to see an opportunity. As long as he could obtain the antidote, he could use it to convince Hu Wentian to join the Supreme Hall. He believed that for the sake of the antidote, Hu Wentian would definitely join the Supreme Hall unconditionally. You have to swear an oath to the heavens. Di Shitian did not really trust Ning Yu as he coldly stated. No problem, Ning Yu did not intend to lie to Di Shitian from the start. Hence, he straightforwardly swore an oath to the heavens. For you. Hearing Ning Yu swearing an oath to the heavens, Di Shitian flicked his wrist and tossed a jade bottle over to Ning Yu. Pa. Catching the jade bottle, Ning Yu unleashed his perception. After a brief inspection, he turned to Hu Wentian and said, "There's no problem with the antidote, you can return it." Because when Hu Wentian swallowed the antidote for the first time, Ning Yu had also probed it. Hence, when Di Shitian took out the antidote again, Ning Yu knew that there was no problem. Okay. Hu Wentian believed in Ning Yu. When Ning Yu told him to retreat, he immediately brought the 10 nine-tailed foxes and retreated. Damn it. What the hell are you guys doing? Seeing Hu Wentian retreating with the 10 nine-tailed foxes, one of the pinnacle heavenly sovereigns cursed, "If we allow Di Shitian to regain control of the array, we'll all die. Don't talk nonsense with me. If we don't make a move, there will naturally be others willing to." Ning Yu naturally did not place the words of a pinnacle heavenly sovereign in his heart. While he was speaking, he casually glanced at the 100-armed devil and the white-haired old man. Ning Yu's meaning was simple. The 100-armed devil and the white-haired old man were both very powerful. If they joined hands to deal with Di Shitian, he would definitely not be able to escape. Consider yourself ruthless. The 100-armed devil ruthlessly glared at Ning Yu. In the next instant, his silhouette flickered as he entered the battlefield. As for the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man, the two of them only hesitated for a second before they rushed out and joined the battle. Originally, Di Shitian was already at a disadvantage. Now, there were 3 more experts joining the fray against Di Shitian, causing him to be unable to retaliate and could only passively defend, unable to retaliate. Poochie. Merely 5 minutes passed. Di Shitian was seized by the 100-armed devil and his fist landed on Di Shitian's chest. A huge force transmitted from his chest, causing Di Shitian to spurt out a mouthful of blood as his body was flung backwards. The direction Di Shitian was flying in was coincidentally the direction of the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man. Without a doubt, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man had each landed a kick on Di Shitian's back. Catcher. The sound of bones breaking rang out from Di Shitian's body. Ah! In the next instant, Di Shitian let out a hysterical roar. "This is so infuriating, I want to perish together with all of you." Di Shitian, who was in a frenzied state, pounded his chest unceasingly with his fists, forcing out tens of drops of blood essence. Voila! In the next instant, Di Shitian's blood essence was like a torrential downpour, permeating the entire area. Not good. Di Shitian wants to destroy the formation, quickly think of a way to leave. Di Shitian's actions caused Ning Yu's heart to pound. If they didn't leave now, when Di Shitian destroyed the formation, they wouldn't be able to leave anymore. Hence, the instant Di Shitian forced out his blood essence, Ning Yu hurriedly unleashed his perception, wanting to find a gap in the formation. Not only was Ning Yu searching for a gap, the 100-armed devil, Hu Wentian, the short demonic beast, etc., almost all the cultivators within the formation were searching for a gap. There's a gap here. Chapter 1637. Fleeing in all directions. Let's go. Ning Yu and Xie Ziyi did not hesitate even a little when they heard the words of the bamboo hat lady. They immediately moved and charged over. Hu Wentian had been paying attention to Ningyu from the start. The moment Ningyu left, Hu Wentian brought the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes and chased after him. As for the 100-armed devil and the rest, because they had to deal with Di Shitian, their speed was slower by half a beat. Please bring me along. When Ningyu arrived at the gap, the bamboo-hatted lady's voice was filled with a hint of pleading. Xiezi, bring her along. Ningyu was very clear of his own strength. With his earth-sovereign cultivation, if he brought the bamboo-hatted lady along, he would definitely be finished. However, the bamboo-hatted lady was the one who discovered the gap. Ningyu could not leave her behind. Hence, Ningyu hurriedly left behind a few words before rushing out of the gap. As for Xiezi, he grabbed the bamboo-hatted lady and followed closely behind Ningyu. And then, Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes also left through the gap in an orderly manner. Ha ha ha, all of you must die. Seeing tens of drops of blood dripping onto the ground, Di Shitian laughed uproariously. As Di Shitian's laughter rang out, his body began to swell up. It's over, he wants to self-detonate. Seeing Di Shitian's body expanding, the 100-armed devil and the rest's expressions drastically changed. Their hearts sank to the bottom. At this moment, they no longer had the desire to fight against Di Shitian. The 100-armed devil, the white-haired old man, the short and fat old man, as well as the 3 peak-stage heavenly supreme demonic beasts, all 6 of them gave up on Di Shitian and rushed towards the gap in the formation. Di Shitian was a late-stage heavenly supreme. One could only imagine the might of a late-stage heavenly supreme's self-detonation. No one wanted to stay in the formation and endure the might of Di Shitian's self-detonation. However, the gap wasn't too big. Those who arrived first would definitely leave first. The 100-armed demon was the closest to the gap, so he entered the gap first and disappeared. Then, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man also came to the gap. However, before the 2 of them could leave, 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereigns blocked their path. The shorter demonic beast kicked the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man towards Di Shitian. Ah! The pupils of the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man shrank, and they couldn't help but shout. Since the white-haired elder and the short elder were focused on the gap, they neglected the 3 pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts. Now that they were being kicked towards Di Shitian, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man could only do their best to stabilize themselves before rushing towards the opening once again. Bang! Bang! The 2 crisp sounds completely shattered the hope in the hearts of the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The white-haired old man and the short and stout old man stared at the gap in the formation as they cursed incessantly. However, it was too late to say anything now. Di Shitian's body had already expanded to its limit, and right in front of the 2 of them, he exploded. Rumble. With Di Shitian as the center, the terrifying shockwaves from the explosion spread out in all directions. Voila! The formation unleashed its last bit of energy. Although it was on the verge of collapse, it still managed to block the shockwaves from Di Shitian's explosion, and firmly controlled the shockwaves within the formation. The formation controlled the shockwaves from spreading out, but the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man suffered. Even if the 2 of them used all their strength, it was still hard for them to block the shockwaves from Di Shitian's self-detonation. The shockwaves left as quickly as they came. In just 3 minutes, the shockwaves from Di Shitian's self-detonation vanished like smoke in thin air. Catcher! And the formation in this region also collapsed the instant the shockwaves dissipated. As the shockwaves dissipated, the formation broke apart. Everything seemed to be in shambles. But in reality, it was a different situation. Ayo! From the ruins, a soft voice rang out. Following that, 2 figures slowly walked out from the ruins. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man. In order to block the shockwaves from Di Shitian's self-detonation, the 2 of them did not hesitate to burn their blood essence, and used all sorts of trump cards. In the end, their lives were saved, but their cultivation dropped to the early stage Sky Supreme. If I don't take revenge for this, I'm not human. The white-haired old man clenched his fists, and a cold voice came from his mouth. What do we do now? The short and fat old man was very calm. In other words, the short and fat old man understood their current situation very well. At their peak, they were mid-stage Sky Supreme. Combined with their trump cards, even in a Saint-grade primal crystal mine, they were considered a peak power. But now, both of their cultivations had dropped to the early Sky Supreme realm. In a Saint-grade primal crystal mine filled with experts, an early-stage Sky Supreme could only be considered cannon fodder. What else can we do? Of course, we have to find those 3 demonic beasts and finish them off, the white-haired old man said fiercely, wanting nothing more than to kill the 3 peak Sky Supreme demonic beasts. The short and fat old man asked, "We're only early-stage Sky Supreme now, how are we going to kill those 3 peak Sky Supreme demonic beasts? Don't we still have a trump card? As long as we use it, not to mention peak Sky Supreme, even if they're half-holy." The white-haired old man said hatefully. "Nonsense." The short and fat old man finally raged, "That trump card is to open the crystal coffin. We can't use it until we see the crystal coffin." "All right, then tell me, what should we do now?" The white-haired old man sighed, and then asked. "First, find a place to rest, and wait for our strength to recover a little. Then, we'll go to the deepest part of the Saint-grade primal crystal mine and find the crystal coffin." The short and fat old man's eyes turned cold, and he said calmly, "That's the only way." The white-haired old man nodded, and his figure flickered, fusing with the void. Buzz. 10 minutes after the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man disappeared. The space in this area split open again, and then 2 figures suddenly appeared. If Di Shitian was still alive, he would have noticed that the 2 warriors were the 2 late heavenly sovereigns that followed Di Feng. The formation is broken. One of the late-stage Sky Supreme warriors with a knife scar on his face looked terrible. "Why don't we see Di Shitian?" The other late-stage Sky Supreme warrior with short hair was also puzzled. Not long after they arrived at the crystal coffin, Di Feng had ordered the 2 warriors to come and help Di Shitian. But what could they do? Now that the formation was broken and Di Shitian had disappeared without a trace, the scar-faced cultivator and the short-haired cultivator had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. In fact, they had already guessed a possibility. They just didn't want to believe it. Chapter 1638. Chapter 1638. Chapter 1638. The crisis is coming, let's go. Hurry up and return to Imperial Peak. Tell them there's a change in the situation. After pondering for a moment, the scarred martial artist and the short-haired martial artist moved in unison and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Although he didn't want to believe that Di Shitian had died in battle, the current situation indicated that Di Shitian had already died. Now wasn't the time to push the blame away. They had to hurry to Imperial Peak and tell him about the situation. Otherwise, Di Feng would definitely be waiting for Di Shitian to activate the formation and bring the energy over to support. Rumble. Not long after the scarred martial artist and the short-haired martial artist disappeared, the entire Saint-grade origin crystal vein had gone completely berserk. All kinds of rocks fell, and the cave collapsed. Obviously, Di Feng and the others hadn't expected such a situation. In order to mine the Saint-grade primal crystal vein as soon as possible, there were a total of dozens of martial artists in the entire vein. Of course, the cultivation of these martial artists who mined the essence crystals were not very high. Furthermore, with the collapse of the vein, most of the cultivators with low cultivations died on the spot. The collapse of the cave not only caused trouble for the warriors mining the mineral vein, but also completely blocked the retreat of Ningyu and the others. What do we do now? Hu Wentian's complexion turned extremely unsightly as he looked at the blocked path before him. Ever since they left the array formation, Ningyu, Hu Wentian, Xie Ziyi, and the bamboo-hatted lady rushed out of the mine without stopping. With the mine collapsing, Ningyu did not want to die in vain. However, they had not gone far when Ningyu's path of retreat was firmly blocked by a huge rock. After several attempts, Hu Wentian gave up on the idea of moving the stone away. The boulder before him was no ordinary boulder. Even though Hu Wentian had given it his all, he was still unable to break it, or rather, move it in the slightest. If I give you the antidote and let you recover to your peak state, can you move the stone? Ningyu took out a jade bottle from his robe and asked solemnly. It's hard to say. Hu Wentian shook his head and said, even if I consume the antidote and recover my cultivation to its peak, I still don't have absolute confidence in moving the stone. If you swallow the antidote, how long will it take for you to recover to your peak state? Ningyu did not immediately hand over the jade bottle to Hu Wentian. A few minutes, Hu Wentian replied honestly. I can give you the antidote and protect you so that you can return to your peak condition. Ningyu frowned slightly and said, but before I give you the antidote, I have a presumptuous request. Originally, Ningyu had wanted to use the antidote to threaten Hu Wentian into joining Supreme Hall. However, the current situation did not allow Ningyu to think too much about it. The collapse of the Saint-grade essence crystal mine caused the danger to increase with every minute one stayed in the mine. Ningyu did not want to die here. That was why he had to pass the antidote to Hu Wentian so that he could recover to his peak state. He could not delay this at all. Speak. Hu Wentian was rather calm. After all, the moment he saw Ningyu, Hu Wentian knew that Ningyu was hiding something from him. Furthermore, the current situation was extremely dangerous. He had to agree to it even if he didn't want to. If we can successfully leave this place, I hope that you can bring all the nine-tailed foxes in the Foxman Valley to join Supreme Hall. Ningyu didn't hide anything from Hu Wentian. He revealed everything and said, I won't hide it from you. I'm the Palace Master of Supreme Palace. The Golden Arowana Fish King, Grandmaster Xingyun, and Xie beside me are all from Supreme Palace. Thump. Hu Wentian's heart skipped a beat. Ningyu was the Hall Master of Supreme Hall with a cultivation of first-grade Earth Sovereign. On the other hand, the Golden Arowana Fish King and Master Xingyun were from Supreme Hall with a cultivation of Advanced Earth Sovereign. Xie was the one that surprised Hu Wentian the most. Xie looked harmless on the surface, but since Ningyu had brought him along, it meant that he had something special about him. He was here to protect Ningyu. No problem. Hu Wentian nodded and said, I can bring the nine-tailed fox of the Foxman Valley to join Supreme Hall, but you can't interfere with our matters. Of course. After joining the Supreme Palace, you will be the Hall Master of the Nine-Tailed Fox Palace's branch. Unless it's an extremely important matter, I will definitely not interfere with what you want to do. Hearing Hu Wentian's agreement, Ningyu revealed a joyful expression. Hu Wentian was a pinnacle Sky Supreme. If he brought the nine-tailed fox of the Foxman Valley to join Supreme Hall, then Supreme Hall's strength would instantly multiply. Swish. Amidst his joy, Ningyu flicked his wrist and threw the jade bottle to Hu Wentian. Crack. Hu Wentian exerted a bit of force in his palm, crushing the jade bottle and pouring the pill inside into his mouth. Then, Hu Wentian sat on the ground with his legs crossed and started refining the antidote. Sizzle. As Hu Wentian continued to refine the antidote, the black gas in his body was also decreasing by the second. Xie, be careful at all times. Swallow the elixir immediately if there's any movement. Although everything seemed calm, Ningyu knew that this was the depths of the mine, and danger could come at any time. Only by preparing for a rainy day could he be prepared. After all, Xie needed some time to unleash the strength of a pinnacle Sky Supreme. Under such circumstances, he had to be careful. Drip. Time was ticking away. The black gas in Hu Wentian's body decreased at a rapid pace. At this rate, Hu Wentian would only need a minute to recover to his peak and unleash the strength of a pinnacle Sky Supreme. Xie, swallow the elixir. Right at this moment, Ningyu suddenly shouted. Ningyu's shout surprised Xie. But out of trust in Ningyu, Xie swallowed the elixir. Buzz. Xie quickly used a skill to refine the elixir. Xie's aura also soared. 30 seconds later, Xie's aura had reached the pinnacle Sky Supreme. What do I do now? Xie asked after swallowing the elixir, allowing him to unleash the strength of a pinnacle Sky Supreme for a short period of time. Use your primordial chi to seal the surroundings. Ningyu said solemnly. All right. Xie released his vital chi, and with them as the center, he began to seal off the surroundings. Crack, crack. But as soon as Xiezi sealed one direction, cracking sounds came from the surroundings. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The cracking sound in his ears made Ningyu's expression change drastically. Everyone, seal the surroundings. Ningyu had no time to explain and also joined the camp that sealed off the surroundings. At first, Xiezi was the only one working. But soon, Ningyu and the 10 nine-tailed foxes joined in. Chapter 1639. Stone Beetle. These insects had a pair of wings on their backs and their mouths were as hard as stone. Stone beetles. That's right, the insects that appeared from the other side of the wall were stone beetles. Stone beetles were ranked at the top of the insect-type demonic beasts. Their mouths were extremely hard and could chew through stones, iron, and even yuan qi. It could be said that wherever the stone beetles passed, not even a blade of grass would be left alive. Damn it, it's the stone beetles. We're doomed this time. One of the nine-tailed foxes couldn't help but curse when they saw the stone beetles appear. Stone beetles were insect-type demonic beasts that lived in groups. As long as one appeared, there would be a group of them. Now that hundreds of stone beetles had appeared on the other side of the yuan qi wall, it was enough to prove that they were surrounded by an army of stone beetles. Cut the crap. 5 nine-tailed foxes are responsible for sealing off this area with yuan qi. 5 nine-tailed foxes are responsible for killing the stone beetles that charge in. Ningyu spoke loudly, and his tone revealed a slight indisputable tone. Since ancient times, the greatest taboo in the face of danger was to panic. With their team composition, 1 peak Sky Supreme Xiezi and 10 early-stage Sky Supreme nine-tailed foxes, it would be far from easy for the stone beetles to charge in. These stone beetles were only peak 9th grade human sovereigns. They weren't even Earth sovereigns. As long as they could seal off this area, it would be difficult for the stone beetles to charge in. Rumble. Sure enough, under Ningyu's orders, the 10 nine-tailed foxes began to work in an orderly manner. 5 used yuan qi to seal off the area while the other 5 killed the stone beetles that charged in. Everything was going smoothly. 30 seconds later, a terrifying aura emanated from Hu Wentian's body. At this moment, Hu Wentian had completely refined the antidote and expelled the black gas from his body. His strength had returned to peak Sky Supreme. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hu Wentian didn't show off after recovering his strength. Instead, he sealed off the area with Ningyu and the others. Although Hu Wentian could kill the surrounding stone beetles, he knew very well that there was no way he could kill all of them. Most importantly, if he started a massacre here, then all the stone beetles in the Yuan crystal mine would rush over here. Hu Wentian didn't want to be someone else's benefactor. If he had guessed correctly, the 100-armed devil, the 3 other pinnacle heavenly sovereigns, as well as the white-haired old man and short old man, must have encountered the siege of the stone beetles. Whoever lost their cool first would be done for. Voila! With the addition of Hu Wentian, the burden on Ningyu's shoulders was significantly reduced. 5 minutes later, under the joint defense of Ningyu and Hu Wentian, they were finally able to seal off the surroundings with a yuan qi wall. Outside the elemental energy wall, the stone beetles that covered the sky and the earth were scrambling to get in. Inside the yuan qi wall, Ningyu, Hu Wentian, and the others all wore relieved expressions. At the very least, the stone beetles wouldn't be able to get in for a while. I can last another 5 minutes. However, before the first wave subsided, another wave arose. Xiezedi's words were like a heavy hammer that struck Ningyu's chest, causing Ningyu's face to darken. A single pill could only allow Xiezi to attack unscrupulously for 10 minutes. As long as the time passed, Xiezedi's aura would drop significantly. We have to leave this place in 5 minutes. Ningyu said solemnly. Forget 5 minutes, even if we have 10 minutes, we won't be able to leave. Hu Wentian's words poured a bucket of cold water over Ningyu's head. Once the stone beetles set their minds on something, they would definitely stick to it until the end, unless they died or the enemy died. Kill a large number of stone beetles? Hu Wentian didn't have the guts to do so. Oh, right. Suddenly, Hu Wentian seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, as long as we can find the leader of the stone beetles and take control of it, we can leave without a hitch. Hearing Hu Wantian's naive words, Ningyu couldn't help rolling his eyes. Judging from the quantity and cultivation of the stone beetles in the surroundings, the leader of the stone beetles in the Saint-grade origin crystal vein was at least a high-rank Earth sovereign. Trying to control a high-level Earth Supreme was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. I got it. Originally, Ningyu wanted to refute Hu Wantian's words. After all, he thought that Hu Wantian's idea was impractical and impossible. But then again, there was a way to lure the leader of the stone beetles over. The world tree. The stone beetles ate the heavens, the earth, and all living things. There was nothing that they didn't like to eat. Of all the things in the world, the one that the stone beetles liked to eat the most was definitely the world tree. The sapling had said that the crystal coffin contained the aura of the world tree, and the stone beetles had appeared here. Combining all of this together, Ningyu could basically conclude that the stone beetle's target was the branch of the world tree. Rather than waiting for the stone beetles to leave, it was better to lure the leader over and find a way to control it. As long as he could control the leader, Ningyu's forces would multiply. Of course, all of this was based on controlling the stone beetles. Sapling, please release a little bit of your aura and lure the leader over. Ningyu didn't hesitate and immediately contacted the sapling to ask for its help. Don't even think about it. I'm very weak right now, I need to rest. The sapling said in an annoyed tone. Rest my ass. Once I control the stone beetles, with their help, we'll be able to find the crystal coffin in no time and take out the branch of the world tree for you. Ningyu interrupted the sapling and said in a deep voice, hurry up and force out a drop of essence. I owed you in my previous life. The sapling waved its branch and forced out a drop of golden liquid and threw it to Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu reached out with his right hand and firmly caught the golden liquid. He said to Xie, hurry up and open the energy wall, I need to find a way to lure the leader over. Crack. Xie waved his hand and opened a small hole in the energy wall. Whoosh. Ningyu threw the golden liquid out of the hole. Crack crack crack. As soon as the golden liquid was thrown out, the surrounding stone beetles swarmed over and started fighting over it. It was obvious that these stone beetles were crazy about the golden liquid that the sapling forced out. Ningyu, what did you throw out? Are you sure you can lure the leader over? Hu Wentian showed a doubtful expression. If the leader senses our aura, it will definitely not come over. That's easy. You guys hide your aura and only reveal the aura of the Earth Supreme Realm. Ningyu waved his hand and said, the rock beetle leader will definitely come. All you have to do is to catch it when it's unguarded. Chapter 1640. Decide no problem, as long as I can catch the rock beetle leader, I'll do anything. With a thought, Hu Wantian's aura began to drop. In just a few seconds, Hu Wantian's aura had fallen from the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm to the earth sovereign realm. Aside from Hu Wentian, the other 10 heavenly sovereigns also had their cultivations drop to the earth sovereign realm. Ningyu himself was a first-grade Earth Supreme, so there was no need for him to hide his aura. As for Xie, he also slightly concealed his aura. Only after Hu Wentian and the others concealed their auras did Ningyu's gaze fall on the woman in the bamboo hat. On the surface, the woman's aura was very weak. She was only a low-level Earth Supreme. However, the woman in the bamboo hat gave Ningyu a vague feeling. It was as if the woman in the bamboo hat had some unknown secret. What's your name? Where are you from? Ningyu thought about it and decided to ask about the specific situation. After all, the woman in the bamboo hat was the first to discover the gap in the array formation, allowing them to leave that place of trouble as soon as possible. My name is Zhao Lin. I'm from the Central Continent. The bamboo-hatted woman replied. Central Continent. Zhao Lin. For some unknown reason, Ningyu felt a sense of familiarity when he heard the bamboo-hatted lady's words. Suddenly, Ningyu remembered something. He pointed at Zhao Lin and said, Is your grandfather the chief array master of the central mainland, Grandmaster Zhao? A few days ago, Ningyu heard Master Zhao talk about his granddaughter. At that time, Ningyu had asked Grandmaster Zhao's granddaughter's name, and Grandmaster Zhao had clearly stated that his granddaughter's name was Zhao Lin. Could this Zhao Lin be that Zhao Lin? How do you know my grandfather? Have you seen my grandfather before? Where is my grandfather now? Is he in danger? Ningyu's words caused Zhao Lin's expression to change greatly, and she hurriedly asked. Ningyu's face darkened. He asked one question, but Zhao Lin, who was standing in front of him, asked several questions in a row. However, from Zhao Lin's nervous expression, Ningyu could basically conclude that this Zhao Lin was that Zhao Lin. Your grandfather is doing very well. He should be here soon. During this time, you'd better stay by my side. I'll protect you. After knowing Zhao Lin's identity, Ningyu's expression became solemn. Zhao Lin's life must be saved. After all, if Ningyu wanted Master Zhao to join the Supreme Palace, he had to save Master Zhao's granddaughter. I don't need you to protect me. I can protect myself. Zhao Lin's tone was indifferent as she said, if what you said is true and you saved my grandpa, I can promise to help you with something. You want to help me with something? Ningyu was slightly startled. He couldn't help but ask, what do you want to help me with? When you lure the stone beetle leader over, I can arrange a formation to trap it. Zhao Lin's words were extremely shocking as she proudly said. Ningyu's eyes widened as he stared at Zhao Lin as if he had seen a ghost. Ningyu was very puzzled. Where did this young woman in her 20s get the courage to say such a thing? One must know that the stone beetle leader was a high-level Earth Supreme, possibly even a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme. To arrange a formation that could trap a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme, one's attainment in formations must be extremely high. You don't believe me? Ningyu's reaction fell into Zhao Lin's eyes. Almost no one in the central mainland knows that my attainments in array formations are already comparable to my grandfather's. Zhao Lin didn't explain too much to Ningyu and just said such a sentence. Confidence and arrogance. Ningyu had witnessed Master Zhao's attainment in formations. As long as Master Zhao was given time, he could even arrange a formation that could trap a pinnacle Sky Supreme. Could Zhao Lin do that? Ningyu didn't believe it. But looking at Zhao Lin's confident face, Ningyu decided to give her a chance. After some thought, Ningyu said, the stone beetle leader will arrive in 5 minutes at most. You only have 5 minutes to arrange the formation. It's a little difficult to set up an array that could trap a high-rank Earth Sovereign in 5 minutes, but it's not impossible. Zhao Lin was confident, but she was still a little nervous when she heard that she only had 5 minutes. After all, she said she would repay his kindness. If she messed it up, wouldn't she be letting Ningyu down? I need the help of 10 nine-tailed demon foxes. Zhao Lin took a deep breath and said, 5 nine-tailed demon foxes to help me, and 5 nine-tailed demon foxes to catch the stone beetles. I need about 50 stone beetles. I don't need them. As soon as Zhao Lin finished speaking, before Ningyu could say anything, Hu Wentian cursed. Killing 50 stone beetles will definitely attract the army of stone beetles from the entire Saint Grade crystal mine. At that time, the Yuan Qi wall we set up won't last long. It was no wonder that Hu Wentian was worried. Hu Wentian's worries weren't without reason. Hu Wentian wasn't sure if he could catch the stone beetle leader. But as long as they killed 50 stone beetles, the entire stone beetle army would rush over. At that time, it would be like putting oneself in a dead end. Is there no other way? Ningyu looked at Zhao Lin and asked. There's no other way. We can only rely on the stone beetles to arrange a formation that can trap a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme within 5 minutes. Zhao Lin stared into Ningyu's eyes and said, all right, I'll believe you this time. Ningyu only pondered for 3 seconds before he made a big decision. Trust Zhao Lin. You can't trap the wolf without risking it. The more dangerous it was, the more he had to try. In any case, they were already trapped in the Saint Grade Yuan crystal mine. If they couldn't successfully escape, then when the crystal coffin went berserk, only death would await them. Instead of doing nothing, it was better to gamble according to Zhao Lin's plan. Do you know the consequences? Hu Wentian was stunned. Hu Wentian, Senior Hu, trust me this time. Ningyu knew that he had to convince Hu Wentian. There's no other way. I'll tell you the truth. Xie won't be able to display his peak Sky Supreme cultivation in 5 minutes. Can you catch the stone beetle leader by yourself? This Hu Wentian's heart skipped a beat. He swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. The stone beetle leader wasn't that easy to catch. If he wanted to catch it, he would have to withstand the attack of the stone beetle army. Otherwise, he would be drowned in the stone beetle army. Originally, Hu Wentian and Xie Ziyi were supposed to capture the stone beetle leader alive while the other resisted the stone beetle army's counterattack. But now, Xie Ziyi wouldn't be able to display the strength of a peak sky supreme in 5 minutes. It was true that Hu Wentian couldn't capture the stone beetle leader by himself. The 10 of you, listen to Zhao Lin's orders for the next 5 minutes. Anyone who disobeys will be killed. Chapter 1641. Chapter 1641. Chapter 1641. Scorn. Yes. The 10 nine-tailed demon foxes answered in unison. Hu Wentian was the old ancestor of Foxman Valley, the absolute leader. The 10 nine-tailed demon foxes chose to obey Hu Wentian's orders unconditionally. You guys, come over here and guard this area. You guys go catch the stone beetles. You must catch 50 stone beetles in 3 minutes. Zhao Lin did not stand on ceremony with the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes. She immediately began to issue orders and began to arrange the array formation. Seeing that Zhao Lin was busy, Ning Yu and Hu Wentian took a few steps back. Their gazes landed on the golden liquid outside the Yuan Qi wall. If he wanted to escape successfully, he had to fulfill 2 conditions. First, the golden liquid attracted the rock beetle leader. Second, use Zhao Lin's formation to trap the stone beetle leader. Neither of these 2 conditions could be omitted. Therefore, Ning Yu and the others were not only worried about whether Zhao Lin could arrange the array, but also whether the golden liquid could attract the leader stone beetle. 5 minutes might seem like a long time, but to Ning Yu and the others, it was very short. Never before had Ning Yu and Hu Wentian felt that time had passed so quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 minutes had passed. 3 minutes later, the rock beetle leader still hadn't shown up. Zhao Lin, on the other hand, surprised Ning Yu and the others. 3 minutes was not a long time, but Zhao Lin had already finished setting up the framework of the array formation. It's just that the framework of the array formation that Zhao Lin constructed was not satisfactory no matter how one looked at it. Are you sure such a small formation can trap the stone beetle leader? Hu Wentian exclaimed as he pointed at the fist-sized formation frame. It's not about the size of an array formation. A small array formation can be very useful. Hearing Hu Wentian's words, Zhao Lin did not even turn her head. She directly threw the 50 stone beetle fragments into the formation. Kai kai. As soon as the stone beetle fragments entered the formation, they turned into powder and gathered in the deepest part of the formation. Rise. Then, Zhao Lin waved her hands repeatedly. In a split second, a cold light flew out from her sleeves and entered the array. Following Zhao Lin's low shout, the fist-sized formation frame suddenly flew into the air. Buzz. The framework of the formation did not stay in the air for too long before it gradually became illusory and disappeared. Where did he go? Hu Wentian asked doubtfully. The rock beetle leader is here. You have to hold it off for 2 minutes. Zhao Lin did not answer Hu Wentian's question. Instead, she pointed her right hand outside the Yuan Qi wall and shouted. Whoosh. Zhao Lin's words immediately attracted the attention of Ning Yu and Hu Wentian. Rock beetle leader. With a single glance, Ning Yu and Hu Wentian revealed looks of surprise. The original plan was to lure the stone beetle leader over in 5 minutes, but now, only 3 minutes had passed and the stone beetle leader had flown over. Obviously, the golden liquid provided by the sapling was a fatal temptation to the stone beetles. Xie Ziyi, join hands with Hu Wentian. You must stop the rock beetle leader's attack. Ning Yu didn't have time to think and hurriedly ordered Xie Ziyi to prepare for battle. At first, Xie Ziyi still had 5 minutes left. But 3 minutes had already passed, so Xie Ziyi only had 2 minutes left. Fortunately, Zhao Lin only needed 2 minutes. Otherwise, Hu Wentian alone might not be able to stop the stone beetle leader's attack. Whoosh! As soon as the stone beetle leader arrived, the stone beetles outside the Yuan Qi wall scattered. A drop of golden liquid appeared in front of the stone beetle leader. Without much hesitation, the stone beetle leader flew out and swallowed the golden liquid in front of Ningyu and Hu Wentian. After swallowing the golden liquid, the stone beetle leader immediately revealed a look of enjoyment. Using this opportunity, Ningyu had a rough idea of the stone beetle leader's cultivation level. Peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. On the surface, the stone beetle leader's cultivation level was that of a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. Even if it swallowed the golden liquid, it definitely wouldn't be able to reach the Sky Supreme realm in a short period of time. Since the stone beetle leader did not attack, Ningyu had Xie and Hu Wentian stay where they were and quietly waited. Preserving their strength and waiting for Zhao Lin to finish setting up the array would save them a lot of trouble. Let me test out the stone beetle leader's strength first. Xiezi's thoughts were different from Ningyu's. He knew that he still had 2 minutes left before he swallowed the pill. Before the medicinal effect wore off, he wanted to contribute as much as he could to Ningyu. Otherwise, Ningyu would leave him here. Be careful. Ningyu thought about it and felt that Xiezi's words made sense. But Ningyu knew that he couldn't alert the stone beetle leader. If the stone beetle leader escaped, he wouldn't be able to catch it again. I know what I'm doing. Xie nodded, then his figure flashed and flew towards the direction of the stone beetle leader. Sapling, force out another drop of golden liquid. Glancing at the stone beetle leader, Ningyu felt that he should let the sapling force out another drop of golden liquid. Only by relying on the golden liquid could he keep the stone beetle leader occupied and not let it leave. What the F***ck? The sapling was about to explode from anger. His goal was to take human form in the sacred grade essence crystal mine, but Ningyu actually kept asking him for the golden liquid. Every time he forced out a drop of golden liquid, his body would weaken a little. If he lost too much golden liquid, even if he found the world tree trunk inside the crystal coffin, he wouldn't be able to transform. Last drop. Ningyu knew that the sapling was angry, so he tried to ease his tone. As long as we can control the stone beetle leader, we will immediately become the strongest in the Saint Grade crystal mine. Okay, I'll trust you one more time. Without waiting for Ningyu to finish, the sapling forced out another drop of golden liquid and threw it to Ningyu. After catching the golden liquid, Ningyu carefully put it into a jade bottle. He didn't want the stone beetle to see it right away. If the stone beetle leader didn't leave, Ningyu naturally wouldn't take out the golden liquid. At the same time, Xie had already arrived in front of the stone beetle leader. Of course, there was a yuan qi wall between Xie and the stone beetle leader. Go! Xie flicked his wrist, and suddenly, a ray of cold light flew out from his sleeve, heading towards the stone beetle leader. The cold light penetrated the yuan qi wall and headed straight for the stone beetle leader. Facing the cold light that was getting closer and closer, the stone beetle leader didn't have the slightest intention of leaving. Instead, the corner of its eyes revealed a look of disdain. That's right, the stone beetle leader revealed a look of disdain. Damn it! Being looked down upon by the stone beetle leader, Xie cursed under his breath and immediately shot out a few more cold lights. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. One after another, the cold lights flew towards the stone beetle leader. But the stone beetle leader was still indifferent, its eyes still showing a look of disdain. Chapter 1642. Done. Reality proved that the stone beetle leader was indeed very confident. Voila! Xiezi's light beams were blocked by the stone beetles that came from all directions when they were still a few steps away from the stone beetle leader. Countless stone beetles rushed in front of the stone beetle leader without any fear of death. Crack! Crack! After all, Xie could unleash the power of a peak sky supreme. He flung out several beams of cold light, instantly killing dozens of stone beetles. However, there were too many stone beetles. Dozens of them died, and hundreds more came to replace them. It seemed like there was no end to them. Time was ticking away. Xie tried to rush out of the yuan qi wall several times to fight the stone beetle leader, but Ningyu stopped him every time. Since the stone beetle leader dared to show contempt, it meant that it had a trump card. If he rushed out at this time, he would not have a good ending. Zhao Lin was about to finish setting up the array. As long as the array was set up and the golden liquid was used to lure the stone beetle leader into the array, all the problems would be solved. I'm so angry. Within the Yuan-Chi wall, Xie flew into a rage, looking very angry. Outside the energy wall, the stone beetle leader continued to show contempt. The situation suddenly became a stalemate. Last minute. Ningyu glanced at Zhao Lin, calculating the time in his mind. Once the time was up, Ningyu would take out the golden liquid given to him by the sapling to lure the stone beetle leader. The last minute, for Ningyu and Xie, seemed to pass very slowly. At the same time, the stone beetle army retreated from the other points of the Saint-grade crystal mine. What happened? In one of the encirclement points, the 100-armed demon's mouth was slightly open. The 100-armed demon was surrounded by the stone beetle army in a corner. Originally, she was ready to fight to the death with the stone beetles, but who would have thought that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel? The stone beetle army that surrounded her actually retreated in an instant. Hundreds and thousands of stone beetles dispersed in an instant. They came and went without a trace, giving people a shocking feeling. After pondering for a moment, the 100-armed devil's body moved and disappeared in an instant. The 100-handed devil did not forget her mission to come to the Saint-grade crystal mine. She couldn't leave before rescuing the devil spirit realm expert. It's all your fault. Why did you have to start a massacre? In another encirclement point, the white-haired old man and the short old man had their backs to each other. Both of them were staring at the stone beetle army in front of them. At this moment, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man had clearly begun to quarrel. Blame me. If it weren't for me, you would have been killed by the stone beetles. The short and stout old man's face was extremely gloomy as he said angrily, forget it, we have to rush out now, otherwise we will all die. The white-haired old man said, he wanted to find an opportunity to rush out. I'll count to 3, then from one direction. The short and stout old man said in a deep voice. Voila. However, just when the short and fat old man and the others were about to leave, the stone beetle army that surrounded them suddenly retreated. The stone beetle army that covered the sky retreated in an orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, the stone beetle army disappeared from the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man's sight. Looking at each other, the white-haired old man and the short and fat old man could see the doubt and confusion in each other's eyes. As long as the stone beetle army surrounded them for a while longer, they would definitely have to use their trump cards. Swish, swish. The white-haired old man and the short and fat old man were not indecisive people. After the stone beetle army retreated, they also began to retreat. However, the direction they retreated towards was the depths of the Saint-grade crystal mine, not the exit. Both of them had the same goal as the 100-armed devil. They swore that they would not rest until they rescued the devil spirit realm expert. At the last encirclement point, the pressure on the 3-peak heavenly supreme realm demonic beasts was much smaller. As they charged forward, they killed almost all the stone beetles that appeared in front of them. However, their method of dealing with the stone beetles was obviously wrong. The more they killed, the more stone beetles there were. Even though they were peak heavenly supreme realm demonic beasts, if they continued to kill, their stamina would definitely run out. Let's find the stone beetle leader. Once we control the stone beetle leader, we can control the stone beetle army, the short demonic beast said. Alright, let's find the stone beetle leader. The other 2 demonic beasts nodded their heads in agreement. Voila! What could they do? Before they could find the stone beetle leader, the surrounding stone beetle army dispersed. Countless stone beetles disappeared in the blink of an eye. What's going on? The sudden change caused the 3 demonic beasts to reveal a puzzled expression. Don't care so much. Let's find our 5 companions as soon as possible. The short demonic beast reacted the fastest. He instantly made a decision to find the 5-peak heavenly supreme realm demonic beasts that were controlled by Di Feng and the rest. Even though they knew that their companions' physical bodies were destroyed and only their yuan spirits were left, they still wanted to save them. How could they allow others to sleep beside their bed? If their master hadn't been in seclusion for so many years, they would have killed their way here long ago. Now that their master had woken up, they naturally had to seek justice. But Ningyu and the rest didn't know what happened at the 3 encirclement points. When the effects of the medicine wore off, Xiezi spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura instantly dropped to the bottom. Swoosh! The stone beetle leader seemed to have been waiting for this moment. Just as Xiezi's aura dropped, it suddenly moved, turning into a shadow as it charged towards Xiezi. Hu Wentian, stop it, Ningyu said hurriedly when he saw the leader of the stone beetles charging out. He was afraid that Xiezi would be killed. Done. Before Hu Wentian could make a move, Zhao Lin revealed a relieved expression. She flicked her wrist and threw the small array to Ningyu. Then, she sent a soul message to Ningyu. This array can trap the stone beetle leader for 3 hours. Pa. Ningyu swung his right hand and firmly caught the array formation that Zhao Lin threw over. Get in. Ningyu glanced at the stone beetle leader, then at Xiezi and Hu Wentian. Then, he took out the golden liquid the sapling gave him and threw it into the small array. Then, Ningyu threw the small array towards Xiezi, blocking in front of him. Seeing Ningyu throw out the small array, Hu Wentian understood and immediately retreated, choosing not to fight with the stone beetle leader for the time being. Hu Wentian's decision was obviously wise. Seeing Hu Wentian retreat, the stone beetle leader's attention was completely attracted by the small array. In other words, it was attracted by the golden liquid inside the small array. Its eyes were fixed on the golden liquid inside the small array. Blah, blah, blah. The stone beetle leader let out a strange cry and floated in the air, not moving forward. Chapter 1643. A Gamble. Crack 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 crack. The stone beetle army, under the command of the stone beetle leader, began to crazily gnaw at the Yuan-Chi wall. Perhaps the stone beetle leader had boosted the morale of the stone beetle army, but this time, the speed at which they gnawed at the Yuan-Chi wall was significantly faster. In just a few seconds, the Yuan-Chi wall began to emit cracking sounds. If this continued, it would not be long before the Yuan-Chi wall collapsed. Damn it! This change was out of Ningyu's expectation. Cursing, Ningyu hurriedly sent a message to Zhao Lin. Can the small formation withstand the stone beetle army's gnawing? We can try. Zhao Lin pondered for a few seconds and then said. Ningyu's face was full of black lines. How could he even try this? Crack crack. But the current situation did not allow Ningyu to think too much. He had to try, even if he didn't want to. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu threw the small formation towards the direction of the stone beetle leader. Whoosh! As soon as the small formation flew out, it was surrounded by dozens of stone beetles. These stone beetles flapped their wings and moved the small formation in front of the stone beetle leader. Squeak! The stone beetle leader squeaked at a stone beetle next to it. Then, the stone beetle turned into a shadow and entered the small formation. All of this was in Ningyu's sight. When the stone beetle entered the small formation, Ningyu's heart was in his throat. If that stone beetle brought the golden liquid out, it meant that their plan to control the stone beetle leader would fail. Fortunately, some kind of strange force was stopping the stone beetles from getting close to the golden liquid. Swoosh! Since it could not approach the golden liquid, the stone beetle flew out of the small formation and squeaked a few times in front of the stone beetle leader. Hearing the stone beetles squeak, the stone beetle leader's expression became a little conflicted. Then, the stone beetle leader ordered a few more stone beetles to enter the small formation to bring out the golden liquid. The stone beetle leader was disappointed. Dozens of stone beetles failed to bring the golden liquid out of the formation. This infuriated the stone beetle leader. Catcher! Catcher! The stone beetle leader flapped its wings and smashed 2 stone beetles into pieces. The stone beetle leader finally lost its patience. It flapped its wings and carefully approached the formation. When it arrived in front of the formation, the stone beetle leader still did not rush in recklessly. It was still observing its surroundings. The stone beetle leader even shifted its gaze towards Ningyu's group. However, at this time, Ningyu and the others were all blocking the stone beetles in all directions, ensuring that the Yuan-Chi wall would not be broken. Seeing this, the stone beetle leader felt a little less worried. Gritting its teeth, the stone beetle leader rushed into the formation. Success! Seeing that the stone beetle leader had entered the formation, Zhao Lin and Ning Yu's faces lit up with joy. Everyone, come and help. We must control the formation, Zhao Lin shouted. She sat down cross-legged and took out a palm-sized disc from her bosom. The yuan qi in her body rumbled. Zhao Lin injected all of it into the disc. What are you waiting for? If you want to control the stone beetle leader, do as I say. Zhao Lin shouted at Ning Yu and Hu Wentian as she injected her yuan qi into the disc. Whoosh! Hearing this, Ning Yu and Hu Wentian did not dare to delay. They gave up on blocking the stone beetles and injected their yuan qi into the disc. Shio! As the yuan qi in the disc increased, the size of the disc also increased. Every time the disc expanded, the small formation in the middle of the stone beetle army outside the yuan qi wall would shrink. Seeing that their leader was trapped in the formation, the surrounding stone beetles became unusually violent. These stone beetles gave up on eating the yuan qi wall and turned to the formation. Unfortunately, the formation was too small. Only a few stone beetles would come into contact with the formation. It would be harder for a few stone beetles to break through the formation. This is all I can do. If you want to control the stone beetle leader, you have to inject your blood essence into its body. 3 minutes later, the small formation outside the yuan qi wall had shrunk a few times. The stone beetle leader inside the formation had also shrunk a few times. It was now only the size of a fingernail. Fortunately, the stone beetle leader's cultivation had reached the pinnacle of a grade 9 Earth Supreme, so it could change its size at will. Otherwise, it would have been reduced to dust. Let me do it. Hu Wentian glanced at Ningyu and took a deep breath. Only I can get close to the small formation. You guys wait here, I'll be right back. The next moment, Hu Wentian's figure flashed and he charged towards the small formation. Rumble. As it turned out, Hu Wentian's thinking was a little too simple. He might be a peak sky supreme, but the number of stone beetles was just too great. Every time he killed a stone beetle, hundreds or even thousands more would charge at him, preventing him from getting close to the small formation. Protect me, let me go. Ningyu knew very well that at Hu Wentian's current speed, it would take him 3 days to get close to the stone beetle leader. Moreover, the sapling had said that he had a way to get close to the stone beetle leader. Ningyu immediately stopped Hu Wentian from moving forward. You're going. Hearing that Ningyu wanted to go, Hu Wentian's mouth was slightly agape. In Hu Wentian's opinion, if even he couldn't get close to the stone beetle leader, what could Ningyu do? Protect me. Ningyu's tone was firm, and he had already put his words into action. Okay, be careful. Since Ningyu insisted on going, Hu Wentian had no choice but to follow Ningyu's instructions and make his move. Moreover, Hu Wentian also ordered 10 nine-tailed demon foxes to attack together to ensure Ningyu's safety. Hu Wentian didn't want Ningyu to die prematurely. After all, whether or not they could successfully escape this time depended on Ningyu. Sapling, what do we do? Before Ningyu could leave the vital energy wall, he was targeted by the stone beetle army. Ningyu had no choice but to contact the sapling. Fight. The sapling's entire body turned into a dark green branch. It suddenly rushed out from the storage ring and landed in Ningyu's hand. This branch is where my life essence resides. Those stone beetles don't dare to get close to it. The sapling guided Ningyu to control the dark green branch to deal with the stone beetle army. Following the sapling's method, Ningyu injected a bit of vital energy and soul power into the branch, and then fiercely pulled it out. The branch made a crisp sound when it came into contact with the air. Crack. However, what was even more terrifying was that when the branches hit the stone beetle's body, the stone beetle was directly smashed into pieces. Kai Kai. Chapter 1644. Chapter 1644. Chapter 1644 Demon Nucleus. Quick, move your branches and kill them. As soon as the liquid entered the dark green branch, the sapling immediately shouted. This green liquid is useful to you? Ningyu was slightly startled, and then asked while twitching the branches. It's useful, of course it's useful. As long as I can devour thousands of drops of the green liquid, I will be able to recover to the 6th grade Earth Sovereign realm. The sapling did not hide anything from Ningyu. What you need to do is to kill as many stone beetles as you can before I control the stone beetle leader. Let me drink their green liquid. I can't believe it. Ningyu cursed. If they had known that the sapling was so powerful, why would they have spent so much effort? Wouldn't it save a lot of trouble if he used the branches to attack the stone beetles when he was surrounded by the stone beetles? Don't be angry, I don't know if I can deal with these stone beetles. Hearing the anger in Ningyu's tone, the sapling hurriedly explained, if I had known this earlier, why would I have waited until now? I would have made a move right from the start. I'll remember it for now. I'll deal with you later. Ningyu glared at the dark green branch in his hand, then swung it back and forth, slowly approaching the stone beetle leader. Don't go to the rock beetle leader first. Help me kill a few rock beetles first. Seeing Ningyu's actions, the sapling could not help but cry out. It wanted Ningyu to think for it first. It was a pity. Ningyu didn't care about the sapling at all. Instead, he charged straight at the stone beetle leader. 3 minutes later, Ningyu held the emerald green branch in his hand and arrived in front of the small formation. Fortunately, the emerald green branches of the sapling were very powerful. Otherwise, Ningyu would have become the stone beetle's food. Even so, Ningyu didn't dare to be negligent. No matter how strong the sapling was, it was only one. The reason why the stone beetles didn't rush forward was because the green branches of the sapling had left a shadow of fear in their hearts. If the stone beetles swarmed him, Ningyu would definitely die. So what Ningyu needed to do now was to control the rock beetle leader as soon as possible. As long as he could control the stone beetle leader, the surrounding stone beetles would collapse on their own. Whoosh! With a thought, Ningyu directly cut open his arm and forced out a drop of fresh blood. He then threw it towards the small array formation. Ningyu was no fool. Chu Yunsheng did not force the stone beetle leader's blood out of its body. He wanted to see how much power the stone beetle leader had left. Kai Kai. As soon as the blood that Ningyu forced out came into contact with the small magic formation, it was blown away by a gust of wind that the stone beetle leader spat out. Although the stone beetle leader was trapped in a small formation, its mouth could still move, and it could spit out strong winds to attack its enemies. Let's see what else you can do this time. The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up. He forced out a drop of blood and rushed towards the stone beetle leader from another direction. If the blood approached the stone beetle leader from the front, it would be blown away by the wind it spat out. But if the blood approached from the back, the stone beetle leader could not do anything. Go! As Ningyu waved the green branch in his hand, he sent out a portion of his soul power to approach the stone beetle leader. The blood was to control the stone beetle leader, while the soul power was to attract its attention. Inside the Yuan Qi wall, Xie and Hu Wantian's gazes fell on the miniature formation, and on the body of the stone beetle leader inside. Success or failure, it all depended on this. Crack crack. But in the next moment, something happened that made Ningyu's expression change. Because of the stone beetle leader's continuous struggle, the small magic formation began to crack. In this situation, the small magic formation would completely break in a few minutes. When the stone beetles saw that the magic formation was about to break, they all went berserk. Even with the green branch of the sapling blocking them, they still rushed out to save the stone beetle leader. This situation was advantageous to the sapling. Every stone beetle that rushed over became food for the sapling. The sapling's cultivation was also rapidly increasing. If this situation continued, it wouldn't take long for the sapling to recover to a 6th grade Earth Supreme. Whoosh! One person rejoiced, but everyone else was worried. Xie and Zhao Lin were in the middle, while Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes formed a semicircle and slowly approached Ningyu. The 4 walls of Yuan Qi shattered at this moment. An overwhelming number of stone beetles swarmed over. Fortunately, Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes had high cultivation. Otherwise, Xie and Zhao Lin would have been finished. Control. Ningyu's current state gave him the feeling that he was not paying attention to the outside world and only focused on reading the books of the saints. All the soul force in his body surged out, and together with the first drop of blood essence, he injected them into the stone beetle leader's body. As soon as the soul force and blood essence entered the stone beetle leader's body, Ningyu controlled them to approach the stone beetle leader's head. He wanted to control the stone beetle leader's demon core. Ningyu thought about controlling the stone beetle leader's sea of consciousness and its heart. But these thoughts were all rejected by Ningyu. The stone beetle leader was a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. It was not easy to control it. Controlling the sea of consciousness and the heart could give the stone beetle leader a chance. But controlling the demon core was different. First of all, the demon core was the easiest to control. He just had to force his soul force and blood essence into it and use a secret technique. Secondly, if the stone beetle leader dared to do anything, Ningyu could directly detonate its demon core and shatter it into pieces. Of course, controlling the demon core had its drawbacks. If the stone beetle leader gave up the demon core, it could break free from Ningyu's control. But this possibility could be ignored for now. Because once the stone beetle leader gave up the demon core, it would be easier for Ningyu to control it. It hurts so much. As soon as Ningyu's soul force and blood essence entered the stone beetle leader's demon core, the stone beetle leader let out a hysterical roar. The stone beetle leader's ability to speak surprised Ningyu. But on second thought, Ningyu understood. The stone beetle leader was a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. Demonic beasts of this level could basically speak the human language. If you dare to control me, I will cut you into pieces and eat you slowly. The stone beetle leader's mouth moved up and down as it viciously spoke to Ningyu. If you want to eat me, you'll have to have the chance first. Ningyu knew the severity of the situation, so he forced out a few more drops of blood essence. He wanted to completely control the stone beetle leader before Hu Wentian and the others could no longer hold on. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 drops of blood flew to the stone beetle leader's back and entered its body from the other side. Chapter 1645. Chapter 1645. Chapter 1645 set out Wala. The stone beetle leader's screams clearly caused the surrounding stone beetles to become even more berserk. With Hu Wentian at the lead, the defending army felt an immense pressure at this moment. Control them. Ningyu's mind was more resolute than the others. He ignored the roars of the stone beetle leader and focused all of his attention on controlling it. Fortunately, he had the help of the green branches from the sapling. Otherwise, Ningyu wouldn't have been able to control the stone beetle leader by himself. Puff. As time passed, the stone beetle leader's condition became worse and worse. In the end, as the stone beetle leader spat out a mouthful of red liquid, it became extremely weak. Ningyu seized this golden opportunity and forced a few more drops of his blood into the stone beetle's core. Poochie. After doing all this, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He was now as weak as the stone beetle leader. Rumble. Just then, the stone beetle army broke through Hu Wentian and the rest's defensive line and rushed towards Ningyu. Be careful. Let's go. Ningyu, run. Hu Wentian, Xie and the rest exclaimed at the same time when they saw the stone beetle army charging towards Ningyu. Hearing Hu Wentian and the others' cries, Ningyu weakly opened his eyes, opened his mouth, and shouted with all his strength, "Stone beetle leader, tell them to stop." After saying this, Ningyu's entire body became limp, and he slumped to the ground. Gah! Hearing Ningyu's order, the rock beetle leader flapped its wings unwillingly and let out a grumbling sound. Whoosh! As soon as the stone beetle leader finished speaking, the stone beetles that were swarming towards them suddenly stopped and floated in the air, not daring to move forward. The sudden change caused Hu Wentian and Xie to reveal looks of surprise. They had no idea what was going on. I know, Ningyu is controlling the rock beetle leader. Hu Wentian and Xie were not stupid. In just an instant, he had guessed a certain possibility. Xie and Hu Wentian looked at Ningyu, then looked at the stone beetle leader floating in front of Ningyu. They exchanged a glance and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Although they had pinned their hopes on Ningyu, when Ningyu really took control of the rock beetle leader, they were still in disbelief. The stone beetle leader was a peak 9th grade Earth sovereign, while Ningyu was only a 1st grade Earth sovereign. Even though the stone beetle leader was under the control of a small formation, it was not easy to control it. At the very least, Hu Wentian and Xie did not have absolute confidence in controlling the stone beetle leader. Defeating the stone beetle leader was not difficult, but controlling it was harder than ascending to the heavens. How could Hu Wentian and Xie not be shocked that Ningyu could control the stone beetle leader? Don't just stand there. Hurry up and recuperate, then we'll head to the deepest part of the Saint Grade Yuan crystal vein. Ningyu raised his hand with difficulty and said, "Rest for half an hour. We'll leave in half an hour." When Hu Wentian and Xie heard Ningyu's words, they did not dare to delay and sat down to recuperate. While Hu Wentian and Xie were recuperating, Ningyu started to communicate with the stone beetle leader. Since he had controlled the stone beetle leader, he had to let it unleash its full potential. Otherwise, Ningyu would not mind letting the sapling temporarily control the stone beetle leader. He believed that the sapling would not reject the stone beetle leader, given how much it liked the stone beetle leader. "Tell me, why is the stone beetle clan here?" Ningyu went straight to the point and asked without beating around the bush. "Because inside this Saint Grade Yuan crystal vein, there is something that we, the stone beetle clan, want." The stone beetle leader answered honestly. It was now meat on the chopping block. The stone beetle leader did not want to make an enemy out of Ningyu. At the very least, it would not make an enemy out of Ningyu until it found a way to expel the blood essence from the beast core. "What is it?" Ningyu asked again. "The thing you use to deal with me. In your human language, it should be called the world tree." The stone beetle leader did not hide anything from Ningyu. "Looks like you did not lie to me." Ningyu nodded and said, "How many stone beetles are there in the Saint Grade Yuan crystal vein?" 100,000. The stone beetle leader answered without hesitation. Hiss. Hearing this, Ningyu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Originally, Ningyu thought that 10,000 stone beetles in the Saint Grade Yuan crystal vein would be good enough. Who would have thought that there would be as many as 100,000? 100,000 stone beetles, even if all of them were at the manifestation realm, could easily fight against a peak sky supreme martial artist. "Later, I will take you to the depths of the Saint Grade Yuan crystal vein. If I am satisfied with your performance, I will give you a small branch of the world tree," Ningyu said after a moment of thought. "What?" However, Ningyu's words made the sapling very unhappy. In the sapling's mind, any branch of the world tree was its personal property. Other people, no, other demonic beasts, should not even think about it. "You'd better behave yourself." Ningyu glared at the sapling, then grabbed the emerald branch and threw it into his storage ring. Whether or not they could obtain the branch of the world tree depended on the stone beetles. With the stone beetles, Ningyu's group would be the most advantageous contender for the branch of the world tree. Without the stone beetles, they were just cannon fodder. Moreover, Ningyu had a feeling that the demonic spirit realm expert in the crystal coffin was not simple. Who knows, there might be a huge battle when they were fighting for the branch of the world tree. At this time, they had to rely on the stone beetle army. Wait and see. Being thrown into the storage ring, the sapling was not angry. It only muttered, "How can it be that easy to obtain the branch of the world tree? The stone beetle army is just cannon fodder at most." Half an hour passed quickly. After half an hour of rest, Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes had already recovered to their peak state. As for Xie and Zhao Lin, they had also mostly recovered. "Let's go." With a wave of his hand, Ningyu's army marched forward. Among them, Ningyu ordered the stone beetle leader to lead 100 stone beetles to open the path, while the rest of the stone beetles surrounded them, responsible for their safety. Just like that, the stone beetles escorted Ningyu, Hu Wentian, and the others to the deepest part of the Saint Grade crystal mine. After setting off, Ningyu finally understood the terror of the stone beetle army. It was unknown if the stone beetle army was very angry, but wherever they passed, it was not an exaggeration to say that not even a blade of grass was left behind. Whether it was the walls or the miners who were crushed to death, they were all devoured by the stone beetle army. Chapter 1646. Enemies on a narrow road. Along the way, Ningyu's group did not slow down at all. Instead, they sped up. At first, Ningyu only saw a few sacred grade origin crystals. Since there were not many sacred grade origin crystals, Ningyu did not question the stone beetle army's devouring of the sacred grade origin crystals and turned a blind eye to it. But as they ventured deeper, they found more and more sacred grade origin crystals. This time, Ningyu could no longer remain calm. If so many sacred grade origin crystals were wasted by the stone beetle army, it would be a heart-wrenching sight. Ningyu ordered the stone beetle leader to restrain its subordinates and hand over any sacred grade origin crystals they came across. As it turned out, Ningyu's order was very effective. In the following period of time, almost every second, a stone beetle would come over with a saint grade origin crystal and hand it to Ningyu. And Ningyu did not refuse any of them, throwing all the sacred grade origin crystals into his storage ring. Only a dozen or so minutes later, Ningyu thought of something terrifying and his expression changed drastically. With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly probed the storage ring with his perception. F***ck. Ningyu couldn't help but swear when he saw it. His guess was right. The sapling's two branches swayed in the wind. Every time a sacred grade origin crystal came in, it would control the branches to devour the sacred grade origin crystal. "Stop right now," Ningyu yelled, his nose crooked in anger. In just a dozen or so minutes, over 1,000 sacred grade origin crystals had all been devoured by the sapling. Luckily it was a sapling. If it was anyone else, they would have exploded and died. "Don't worry, I'm the world tree. Swallowing these sacred grade origin crystals is nothing to me." The sapling did not seem to have any remorse as it said, "I swallowed these sacred grade origin crystals not just for myself, but for the world tree trunk inside the crystal coffin." "Bullshit." Ningyu glared at the sapling and said coldly, "From now on, you'd better stay in the storage ring. Without my permission, you, thump." However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, the sapling's body tilted and fell into the storage ring. The sapling's action made Ningyu speechless. Obviously, the sapling had swallowed too many saint grade origin crystals, causing it to be unable to refine them in a short time, and could only use this method to refine them. Thinking of this, Ningyu could not help but shift his gaze to the other two sides. One was the Dark Emperor. He was currently in closed-door training. When he obtained the heaven-devouring scepter, the Dark Emperor went into closed-door training in order to refine the Great Tyrant. Ningyu clearly remembered that the Dark Emperor said that as long as he came out of seclusion, his cultivation would at least be in the Earth Sovereign realm. The other one was Furball. Ever since he threw Furball into the storage ring, Ningyu did not really care about it. It was not that Ningyu did not want to care about Furball, but Furball had been in closed-door training and had not woken up. While Furball was in closed-door training, Ningyu had also tried to wake him up. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Ningyu tried, he could not wake Furball up. Furball was the same as the Dark Emperor. They were both heaven-devouring hounds. However, the Dark Emperor was a purple-gold heaven-devouring hound, the emperor of the heaven-devouring hound clan. Furball's status seemed to be even nobler than the Dark Emperor. In terms of bloodline, Furball was not inferior to the Dark Emperor at all. In fact, it was a grade higher. I wonder if this trip to the Saint Grade Origin Crystal Mine can wake up Furball and the Dark Emperor at the same time. Ningyu thought for a while, then took out a piece of Saint Grade Origin Crystal and threw it to the Dark Emperor and Furball. As for whether they could refine it or not, it would depend on their own luck. What the F***ck? As soon as he threw the Saint Grade Origin Crystal to the Dark Emperor and Furball, Ningyu immediately realized that he was wrong. Be it the Dark Emperor or Furball, a terrifying devouring force burst out from their bodies. In the blink of an eye, the Saint Grade Origin Crystal was devoured by them. Gulp. The speed at which the Dark Emperor and Furball devoured the Saint Grade Origin Crystal was completely out of Ningyu's expectations. One must know that even heavenly sovereigns wouldn't be able to devour Saint Grade Origin crystals so quickly. Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and slightly released his perception, probing the Dark Emperor and Furball. Damn it, it's really infuriating to compare humans to dogs. Even though Ningyu was prepared, he could not help but curse at this moment. That's because the cultivation of the Dark Emperor and Furball was simply unimaginable, which made Ningyu have the urge to curse. Before the Dark Emperor went into seclusion, his cultivation was only at the intermediate stage human sovereign realm. But now, the Dark Emperor's aura had clearly reached the pinnacle of the 9th grade human sovereign realm, just a step away from the Earth Supreme realm. It seemed like what the Dark Emperor said before going into seclusion was indeed true. The Dark Emperor's cultivation wasn't too shocking to Ningyu. What shocked Ningyu the most was Furball. Ningyu clearly remembered that when Furball went into seclusion, his cultivation wasn't even at the sovereign realm, not even the manifestation realm. How long had it been, and Furball's aura was actually on par with the Dark Emperor. In other words, Furball's cultivation was also at the pinnacle of the 9th grade human sovereign realm. Furthermore, in Ningyu's perception, if the Dark Emperor and Furball were to clash head-on, the Dark Emperor would definitely lose. Heaven-devouring hounds are indeed monstrous fellows. Ningyu knew that the heaven-devouring hounds were terrifying, but he did not expect them to be this terrifying. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu slowly withdrew from the storage ring. Since the Dark Emperor and Furball were still in seclusion, Ningyu did not disturb them. After all, the main force this time was the stone beetles. Even if the Dark Emperor and Furball came out, they wouldn't be of much help. There's someone up ahead. As soon as Ningyu withdrew from the storage ring, he heard Hu Wentian's scream. As a pinnacle sky supreme, Hu Wentian's perception was terrifyingly powerful. As he advanced, he paid attention to the changes in his surroundings. Although the stone beetle army was advancing at an unstoppable speed, Hu Wentian was no fool. He knew that they hadn't encountered any real danger yet. If they did, the stone beetle army's speed would definitely slow down. As expected. After advancing at full speed for half an hour, the stone beetle army finally slowed down. What's going on? Ningyu asked with a solemn expression. If I'm not wrong, there are at least 4 experts in the secret room ahead. 2 initial Sky Supreme and 2 late Sky Supreme, Hu Wentian replied. We've seen 2 initial Sky Supreme cultivators before. They should be the white-haired elder and the short and fat elder from not long ago. It's them. Before Ningyu could say anything, Xie asked in confusion, aren't they intermediate Sky Supreme? When did their cultivation drop to initial Sky Supreme? I'm not too sure about that. Chapter 1647. Chapter 1647, Giant Yuan Crystal. A giant Yuan crystal? Hu Wentian's astonished expression fell into Ningyu's eyes. Ningyu was a little curious. What kind of Yuan crystal could make a pinnacle heavenly supreme like Hu Wentian feel shocked? Could it be a Yuan crystal that surpassed a saint-grade Yuan crystal? If I've guessed correctly, that Yuan crystal should be a saint-grade Yuan crystal, but it's several times higher than an ordinary saint-grade Yuan crystal, reaching the limit of a saint-grade Yuan crystal. How could Hu Wentian not know what Ningyu was thinking? He did not hide it and explained. Then what are we waiting for? We should kill our way in and snatch that huge Yuan crystal, Xie immediately said. It's not that easy. Ningyu shook his head. If it's just the few of us, we might be able to hide from the 4 heavenly sovereigns in the chamber. But now that we're here with the army of stone beetles, we've clearly been exposed. The only thing we can do now is to surround them and not attack. We'll let the 4 heavenly sovereigns kill each other first. Kill each other? Xie was puzzled. Ningyu smiled and didn't explain too much to Xie. Instead, he turned around to look at Zhao Lin and said, "Can you help me set up a formation? A formation that can trap the entire chamber. I'm sorry, but with my current strength, I can't set up an array that can trap heavenly sovereigns." Zhao Lin shook her head. Zhao Lin's reply was out of Ningyu's expectations. In Ningyu's original plan, Zhao Lin would set up an array to trap the 4 heavenly sovereigns in the chamber, then let the army of stone beetles enter the chamber and kill all 4 heavenly sovereigns in one fell swoop. But from the looks of it, he might have to change his plan. After a brief pondering, Ningyu said, "Hu Wentian, if you and 10 nine-tailed foxes enter the chamber, how confident are you in killing the 4 heavenly sovereigns?" Hearing Ningyu's words, Hu Wentian was slightly taken aback at first, Then he said, if they don't have any trump cards, I can kill them all by myself. If they do, I don't have absolute confidence. How about this? I'll let the rock beetle leader lead the rock beetle army and go with you. Ningyu knew that Hu Wentian was telling the truth. Therefore, after thinking about it, he decided to let the stone beetle army participate in the battle. Although the stone beetle army was left until the end to fight for the tree branch, for some reason, Ningyu still felt that the giant crystal inside the secret chamber was unusual, and he should fight for it. In any case, there were more than 100,000 stone beetles inside the Saint-grade crystal vein. Losing a few stone beetles with low cultivation wasn't a big deal. Sure, but after this is done, I want half a piece of Saint-grade origin crystal. Hu Wentian nodded his head. No problem, Ningyu agreed to Hu Wentian's request without any hesitation. Since Hu Wentian had yet to join the sovereign palace, it was reasonable for him to have such a request. After all, there was a possibility of danger when dealing with the 4 heavenly sovereigns in the secret chamber. So it was reasonable for Hu Wentian to ask for some revenge. Rustle. In the next moment, the stone beetle leader led the swarm of stone beetles and rushed towards the secret chamber. In the beginning, the sturdy door of the secret chamber could still withstand the bite of the rock beetle army. But as time passed, the number of rock beetles increased, and the secret chamber's door finally couldn't withstand it anymore and shattered. Rumble. When the secret chamber's door shattered, a terrifying attack burst out towards the first batch of rock beetles. Crack, crack, crack. The sudden attack instantly decapitated dozens of powerful rock beetles and killed them on the spot. Gah. The death of the vanguard caused the other rock beetles to be enraged. Especially the rock beetle leader. It even let out a roar that no one could understand. Rustle. Under the roar of their leader, the rock beetles went berserk and charged into the secret chamber. In the beginning, the rock beetle leader wasn't serious about attacking the secret chamber, but it was forced by Ningyu's pressure. But right now, it only had a single thought in its mind, and that was to flatten the secret chamber and devour the cultivators inside. Rustle. Rustle. Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes did not hesitate when they saw the stone beetle chieftain leading the stone beetles in. What should we do? Seeing Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed foxes charging into the secret chamber, Xie paced back and forth with anxiety on his face. Nothing. Ningyu shrugged. Please calm down. With the rock beetles and Hu Wentian making a move, I believe that the 4 heavenly sovereigns inside will be crippled, if not dead. Although that's the case, I'm afraid that there might be an accident. Xie voiced out his concern. Forget it, forget it. I'll have 100 rock beetles escort you out. Ningyu felt that there was no point in keeping Xie by his side, so he immediately decided to send Xie out of the Saint-grade crystal mine. Plop. As soon as Ningyu spoke, Xie knelt down and said in fear, Master, I'm just worried. I'm not trying to boost the morale of others and diminish my own. Just who is this Ningyu? Seeing Xie kneeling in front of Ningyu, Zhao Lin's heart was in turmoil. The scene of Xie displaying the strength of a peak heavenly supreme not long ago was still fresh in her mind. Now that Xie was kneeling in front of Ningyu, how could Zhao Lin not be shocked? Even the young masters of some large families couldn't make a peak heavenly supreme kneel like this, right? One had to know that a peak heavenly supreme was already a high-end fighting force in the immortal spirit realm. Unless it was a sage family, no one could make a peak heavenly supreme kneel to an earth supreme. At this thought, Zhao Lin's expression changed as she looked at Ningyu. To Zhao Lin, a sage family was an unreachable family. Although Zhao Lin's family was a top force in the central mainland, their strongest expert was only a half-step sage. And the difference between a half-step sage and a sage could not be measured. As long as a sage was willing, they could kill a half-step sage with just 10% of their strength. It had been many years since a true sage had appeared in the immortal spirit realm. What are you thinking? I asked you to leave so that you could tell Guoliang and the others what happened in the Saint-grade crystal mine and make them act cautiously. Looking at Xie kneeling in front of him, Ningyu rolled his eyes and said in a bad mood, Remember, other than Grandmaster Xingyun and Guoliang, you have to keep an eye on the others. Don't let them enter the Saint-grade crystal mine, or I'll hold you accountable. Who? Hearing Ningyu's words, Xie heaved a sigh of relief. That was close. Actually, in that instant, Xie was really afraid that Ningyu would take his life. After all, his life was still in Ningyu's hands. If Ningyu wanted him dead by midnight, he definitely wouldn't be able to live past midnight. Don't worry, I promise to complete the mission. Chapter 1648. Devoured. After Xie left, Ningyu fulfilled his promise and allowed the 100 stone beetles to leave with him. Xie was affected by the Jiu poison in his body and couldn't display his peak strength for the time being. Having 100 stone beetles to protect him would save him a lot of unnecessary trouble. Then, Ningyu's gaze moved from Xie's back to the secret room. On the surface, Ningyu looked calm, but in reality, Ningyu was more worried than anyone else. There were a total of 4 Sky Supremes in the secret room. Ningyu was more familiar with 2 of them, the Devil Spirit Realm White-Haired Elder and the Short and Fat Elder. Although their cultivation levels had dropped to the early stage Sky Supremes, Ningyu didn't let his guard down at all. Back in the formation, the White-Haired Elder and the Short and Fat Elder hadn't left and had endured the power of Di Shitian's self-destruction. Martialists who could survive the self-destruction of a late-stage Sky Supreme were no ordinary martialist. As for the other 2 late-stage Sky Supreme martialists, Ningyu was naturally very familiar with them. They were the martialists who followed Di Shitian back then, late-stage Sky Supreme martialists from God Emperor Palace. However, Ningyu was worried about something else. Back then, aside from the 2 late-stage Sky Supreme martialists who followed Di Shitian, there was also a Peak Sky Supreme martialist. Ningyu was worried that the Peak Sky Supreme martialist would suddenly appear, so he was now very nervous and paying close attention to his surroundings. I have to increase my cultivation level as soon as possible. Right now, Ningyu was very dissatisfied with this feeling. Although he had established Supreme Hall and had a large group of powerful martialists and demonic beasts following him, external forces were still external forces. In the end, external forces were still external forces. If he really encountered a sneak attack that could kill him, he would have to rely on himself. Therefore, Ningyu secretly made up his mind that after leaving the St. Grade Yuan Crystal Mine, he would first go to Giant Shield City to rest for a few days and increase his cultivation level as much as possible. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was deep in thought, the battle in the secret chamber had reached its climax. With every rumble, dozens of stone beetles were killed. Since the beginning, the number of dead stone beetles had reached several thousand. Looking at the mountain of stone beetles, Ningyu frowned. He wondered if he should wake up the sapling and let it eat these dead stone beetles. Catcher, catcher, catcher. However, what happened next made Ningyu feel like King Hell. No one knew who gave the order, but the stone beetle army rushed out and bit their companions. Thousands of dead stone beetles were eaten by their companions in just a few minutes. Gulp. Ningyu couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva when he saw so many stone beetles being eaten so quickly. This situation reminded Ningyu of a phenomenon. Many ants could kill an elephant. As long as there were enough stone beetles, no matter how strong the enemy was, as long as they didn't exceed a certain threshold, they would be killed. Bang! Bang! Perhaps it was to confirm Ningyu's thoughts. Suddenly, 2 figures flew out of the secret chamber and slammed into the ground. Following closely behind these 2 figures was the stone beetle leader and its army of stone beetles. Ah! The 2 late-stage Sky Supremes let out hysterical screams in the face of the swarm of stone beetles. However, their screams didn't last long before they were drowned out by the stone beetle army. In just 5 minutes, the 2 late-stage Sky Supremes were devoured by the stone beetle army. Catcher. The stone beetles that devoured the late-stage Sky Supremes underwent a transformation after devouring the 2 late-stage Sky Supremes. The stone beetles that were originally low-stage Earth Supremes advanced to mid-stage Earth Supremes. The stone beetles that were mid-stage Earth Supremes advanced to late-stage Earth Supremes. There were even 4 stone beetles that underwent an obvious transformation, reaching peak 9th grade Earth Supremes in one go, comparable to the stone beetle leader. Originally, Ningyu was worried that the stone beetle leader's position would be affected. However, after seeing the transformation of the stone beetle leader, Ningyu's worries were completely dispelled. Although the stone beetle leader hadn't become a Sky Supreme, its cultivation was infinitely close to that of a half-step Sky Supreme. Moreover, the stone beetle leader's body had also undergone a transformation, more than doubling in size. Under the powerful deterrence of the leader, the 4 pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm stone beetles all revealed trembling expressions with fear. Stone beetle leader, hurry up and help Senior Hu Wentian, Ningyu shouted in a deep voice. No need. As soon as Ningyu shouted, Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed foxes flew out from the secret chamber. Among them, Hu Wentian was holding an early-stage Sky Supreme in his hand. Upon closer inspection, it was the white-haired elder. As for the 10 nine-tailed demon foxes, they were carrying a huge origin crystal. Where's the other short and fat elder? Ningyu wasn't excited by Hu Wentian's capture of the white-haired elder. Instead, his expression turned solemn. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. If he only captured the white-haired elder and let the short and fat elder escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ha ha ha, you want to capture us? What a fool's dream. The white-haired old man threw his head back and let out a hearty laugh, saying darkly, I will definitely spread the news of you controlling the stone beetle army. At that time, you will become the common enemy of all the saint-grade crystal mines. Slap yourself. Ningyu frowned slightly and said indifferently, slap slap slap. Hu Wentian started slapping the white-haired elder's cheeks with both hands. After a few hundred slaps, his palms became slightly numb. Only then did he stop. At this moment, the white-haired old man's cheeks had grown several times larger, becoming larger than a pig's head. Let me ask you a few questions. If you can answer them honestly, I can spare your life, Ningyu said indifferently. Spare my life. The white-haired elder's eyes were seeing stars, but he still mocked. You're about to die, and you still don't know it. The army of the Devil Spirit Realm is about to attack the Pill Creation continent. When the time comes, you won't even know how you died. I advise you to get on your knees and kowtow to me a few times. That way, I can save your life. Otherwise, you'll be dead. Devour. Ningyu glanced at the stone beetle leader and said indifferently, swish. The stone beetle leader understood and immediately flew out. It crawled on the white-haired elder's head and started devouring. Ah! The stone beetle leader's long mouth pierced into the white-haired elder's head and continuously devoured him. The pain that drilled into his head caused the white-haired old man to let out a hysterical scream. Buzz buzz. The stone beetle leader's devouring speed was very fast. In just a few minutes, the white-haired elder had been devoured and turned into a piece of human skin. Chapter 1649. Chapter 1649. Chapter 1649. Immortal crystals. Did this stone beetle leader mutate? After devouring the white-haired elder, Ningyu was shocked that the stone beetle leader hadn't even reached the quasi-heavenly sovereign realm. Generally speaking, a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign could ascend to the heavenly supreme realm by devouring a heavenly supreme realm cultivator. Ningyu was very surprised that the stone beetle leader's cultivation was still stagnant. Hu Wentian, you can take half of this huge yuan crystal and give me the other half. Ningyu knew that now was not the time to think too much. He needed to pack his things as soon as possible so that he could continue his journey to the crystal coffin. Because in that instant, Ningyu sensed something unusual. It was as if all the vital energy in the saint-grade crystal mine was flying towards the crystal coffin. Devouring power. Although he did not know what had happened to the crystal coffin, Ningyu was almost certain that something had happened there. Hu Wentian did not stand on ceremony with Ningyu. With a thought, his tail enlarged and lashed out at the huge crystal. Bang! What happened next made Hu Wentian's heart skip a beat. Even though he had used 50% of his strength, he was still unable to blast the giant crystal into 2 halves. I don't believe it. With so many people watching, if Hu Wentian couldn't even destroy a single crystal, where would he put his face? In the next moment, Hu Wentian leaped onto the giant crystal. Open! Hu Wentian raised his right hand, bringing with it a strong gust of wind as he ruthlessly slapped the huge crystal. As soon as his palm came into contact with the origin crystal, Hu Wentian's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly retreated. However, it was clearly too late for Hu Wentian to think of retreating now. A terrifying cold light shot out from the huge crystal, piercing through Hu Wentian's palm and coming out from the back of his palm. Ah! The piercing pain caused Hu Wentian to let out a hysterical scream. Poochie! Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Hu Wentian's face became extremely gloomy as water. Stop it! Ning Yu didn't have the time to check on Hu Wentian's injuries as he hurriedly shouted at the rock beetle leader. The cold light shot out from the crystal and injured Hu Wentian. Ning Yu didn't want the cold light to come back and attack him, so he ordered the stone beetle army to stop the cold light for him. The stone beetle leader understood and immediately ordered the 4 pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns to each lead a pair of stone beetles to chase after the cold light. As for himself, he hovered in front of Ning Yu and did not go forward to help. In his opinion, the 4 generals under him were enough to take down Cold Edge. Voila! As it turned out, the stone beetle leader was right. 3 minutes later, the stone beetles returned with a palm-sized crystal on the back of a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign. Looking at the crystal on the back of the stone beetle, Ning Yu widened his mouth in disbelief. The palm-sized crystal had already reached the pinnacle of Saint grade origin crystals, and it was only half a step away from the higher grade. If the huge crystal was the pinnacle of Saint grade origin crystals, then the palm-sized crystal was the pinnacle of the pinnacle. Above Saint grade origin crystals were the immortal grade origin crystals. Generally speaking, only sage-level experts would have real immortal grade origin crystals. After all, immortal grade origin crystals were extremely precious, and even hidden forces might not have them. Immortal aura. Ning Yu retrieved the palm-sized crystal from the back of the stone beetle and observed it for a while before he exclaimed, "It's actually at the half-step immortal grade origin crystal, how shocking." "You said that it's a half-step immortal grade origin crystal?" Hearing Ning Yu's words, Hu Wentian's eyes narrowed as he snatched the crystal. Good. After observing it for a few minutes, Hu Wentian uttered the word good 3 times in a row. Hu Wentian was a pinnacle Sky Supreme cultivator, and he basically used Saint grade origin crystals to cultivate. Although Saint grade origin crystals were of great help to Hu Wentian's cultivation, he could achieve twice the results with half the effort. However, with immortal grade origin crystals, the time it would take for Hu Wentian to advance to the half-step Saint realm would be greatly shortened. One must know that even some true sages used Saint grade origin crystals to cultivate. Being able to cultivate with half-step immortal grade origin crystals at the Sky Supreme realm was an enviable treatment. Ning Yu, I need this half-step immortal grade origin crystal. Hu Wentian suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a deep voice, "Give me this half-step immortal grade origin crystal, and I'll give you the rest of the crystal." "Are you sure?" Ning Yu looked at Hu Wentian with a faint smile. "I'm sure." Hu Wentian nodded solemnly and said, "All right." Ning Yu did not waste his breath with Hu Wentian. His origin chi surged out from his body and wrapped around the huge crystal on the ground before carefully storing it in his storage ring. Hu Wentian thought that he had taken advantage of the situation, but little did he know that there was another immortal grade origin crystal inside the huge crystal. The immortal grade origin crystal inside the huge crystal was not a half-step immortal grade origin crystal, but a genuine immortal grade origin crystal. If Ning Yu hadn't noticed the huge crystal tremble when the half-step immortal grade origin crystal flew out, he wouldn't have noticed it. It could be said that no one knew that there was another immortal grade origin crystal inside the huge crystal other than Ning Yu. Not even Hu Wentian. Of course, if Hu Wentian knew, he definitely wouldn't have given the huge crystal to Ning Yu. "Senior Hu, is your hand all right?" Ning Yu looked at Hu Wentian and asked with concern after keeping the huge crystal. "It's nothing." Hu Wentian waved his undamaged hand with a faint smile. At Hu Wentian's level of cultivation, it wasn't too difficult to repair a pierced hand. At most, he would just have to expend a bit of his origin chi. Let's continue. We must reach the crystal coffin as soon as possible. Since Hu Wentian was fine, Ning Yu didn't ask any more questions. Instead, He dashed toward the depths of the Saint-grade origin crystal vein. Whoosh! Ningyu set off with the entire army of stone beetles. Seeing that Ningyu and the army of stone beetles had set off, Hu Wentian and the others followed closely behind. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be. Without the protection of the army of stone beetles, Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed foxes might not be able to reach the deepest part of the mine. The army of stone beetles had the advantage in numbers. Even if they encountered a powerful cultivator, they could defeat them with their swarm of insects. Even if they couldn't defeat the enemy, they could delay the enemy's attack and buy themselves some time to leave. Boom! Ningyu and the others continued onward without stopping. About half an hour later, Ningyu, Hu Wentian, and the others' expressions changed at the same time as they scattered in all directions. However, it was already too late for Ningyu and Hu Wentian to retreat. A huge crack suddenly appeared on the ground, and a terrifying suction force came from it. Chapter 1650. Grand Hall Thump. As soon as Ningyu and Hu Wentian fell into the crack, their hearts skipped a beat. Swish, swish, swish. Because Ningyu and Hu Wentian discovered that several cold gazes were suddenly directed at them from all directions. Evidently, the owners of those gazes were all powerful, at least in the heavenly sovereign realm. Ningyu roughly estimated that there were about 20 to 30 of them. Jejje, someone else is here. Here he, soft skin and tender flesh. I like this kind of little doll the most. What a hothead. A first-grade Earth Supreme brat dares to come here? He's simply courting death. The discussions around him did not affect Ningyu at all. On the contrary, Ningyu tried his best to look around, trying to figure out where he was. Crystal coffin. This glance caused Ningyu's mouth to gape slightly, and a tempestuous storm arose in his heart. At this time, Ningyu was in a huge palace. Above the palace, there was a huge crystal coffin. In the hall, there were 20 to 30 heavenly sovereigns. In fact, Ningyu was very familiar with a few of them. The 100-armed ghost demon, the short and fat old man, the 3 pinnacle heavenly supreme demonic beasts, and the pinnacle heavenly supreme expert of the God Emperor Palace, defy. As for the other heavenly sovereigns, Ningyu had never seen them before. But judging from their clothes, Ningyu could determine that they must be from a top-tiered force. Looks like I was too nervous. The crystal coffin still hasn't been opened. Ningyu shifted his gaze from defy and the others to the crystal coffin. Although he did not know why the crystal coffin had not been opened, Ningyu knew that he was in a very bad situation. The surrounding martial artists all looked at him as if he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Shosho. Hu Wentian had also noticed this situation. He shifted his feet and moved closer to Ningyu. At the same time, he unleashed his pinnacle heavenly supreme aura. Hiss. A pinnacle heavenly supreme, could that brat be the young master of some great clan? There are actually pinnacle heavenly supreme guards by his side. The surrounding martial artists all revealed a horrified expression. Originally, they thought that Ningyu was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Now, it seemed that Ningyu was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. As Hu Wentian had concealed his aura earlier, no one knew his true cultivation level. Now that they knew Hu Wentian's cultivation, the crowd of martial artists quietened down, not daring to behave atrociously. Master, please find a way to open this palace and let my stone beetle army in. Suddenly, the stone beetle leader's voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Hearing that, Ningyu was briefly stunned. Then, he noticed that, including the stone beetle leader, there were only 5 stone beetles that followed him into the palace. This discovery made Ningyu's face turn ashen. No wonder the surrounding heavenly sovereigns dared to look at him with disdain. It turned out that there were only 5 stone beetles that entered. Even if they were all pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereigns, they had no advantage against so many heavenly sovereigns. Wait a moment. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not reject the stone beetle leader's request. Open the palace? Although Ningyu had such thoughts in his heart, he did not dare to put them into action. After all, with their current strength, they could only be considered as a middle-tier force in the palace. They couldn't even be considered as a top-tier force. Not to mention whether they could break the palace. If the surrounding martial artists joined hands to deal with them in the process, it wouldn't be worth it. The arrival of Ning Yu's group only caused a small commotion. But the commotion quickly disappeared. This was because all the cultivators in the hall had turned their gazes to the crystal coffin at the head of the hall. Dong dong. Dong dong sounds could be heard from the crystal coffin. Could there be a living person in the crystal coffin? Who cares if there's a living person in it? I suggest that we join hands and blast it open. As they spoke, a few heavenly sovereigns moved, wanting to blast the crystal coffin. Wait. But before they could do anything, a pinnacle heavenly sovereign waved his hand and said, "Since Di Feng invited us over, it means that he definitely knows how to open the crystal coffin. Why don't we listen to what he has to say?" Swoosh. The heavenly sovereign's words attracted everyone's attention to Di Feng. Cough, cough. Di Feng coughed and said, "To be honest, I do know how to open the crystal coffin. But I can tell you clearly that now is not the best time to open it." Di Feng was very nervous. Actually, what that pinnacle Sky Supreme cultivator said was right. Besides Ning Yu and his group, the rest of the martial artists in the palace were invited by Di Feng through his connections. Di Feng always had a sense of propriety. He wouldn't hang on to one tree. As he was afraid that the first formation would go wrong, Di Feng used his connections to invite Sky Demon region and other heavenly sovereigns from other regions. The heavenly sovereigns that Di Feng invited were all martial artists who didn't have much time left. Di Feng had offered them benefits, saying that there were elixirs that could extend one's lifespan in the crystal coffin. Humans die for wealth, just as birds die for food. Di Feng's move played into many people's hands. Sky Demon region, Ice region, and other regions sent a total of 20 to 30 heavenly sovereigns. When can we open the crystal coffin? You have to give us an explanation, right? A late-stage heavenly supreme asked in dissatisfaction. Half an hour. Di Feng extended a finger and said, "I will open the crystal coffin in half an hour." "All right, we believe you. We'll wait for the last half an hour." "Since we've waited for so long, half an hour is nothing. We'll wait." "Hehe, I'm a little excited when I think about getting the elixir in half an hour." Di Feng's words changed everyone's thoughts. Everyone chose to close their eyes and rest as they waited for the crystal coffin to open. Oh yeah. Suddenly, Di Feng seemed to have thought of something. He extended his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. "I didn't invite them. I don't wish for them to take a share." Hong. Di Feng's words shocked the surrounding martial artists. Di Feng's intention was clear. He wanted everyone to team up to kill Ning Yu and his group. However, there was a pinnacle heavenly supreme next to Ning Yu. If it was just to kill Ning Yu, any heavenly supreme would be able to accomplish it. However, how could it be easy to kill Ning Yu who was protected by a pinnacle heavenly supreme? Swoosh. Di Feng had expected that no one would take action. He took out a golden elixir with his right hand. Chapter 1651. Small Ears Warrior Poochie. Ning Yu couldn't help but laugh when he heard Di Feng talking nonsense with a straight face. Although he was far away from Di Feng, Ning Yu could see the golden elixir in Di Feng's hand clearly. How was this a longevity pill? It was clearly an ordinary pill that couldn't be any more ordinary. Whoosh. Ning Yu's laughter attracted the attention of all the martial artists in the hall. "Brat, what are you laughing at?" An initial phase heavenly sovereign stared at Ning Yu and barked, "If you laugh again, I'll dig your eyeballs out." The words of this big-eared martial artist made Ning Yu a little confused. "Even if I smile, you shouldn't dig out my eyes, right? Wasn't he going to tear his mouth apart?" Humph. At least you know what's good for you. Seeing Ning Yu's appearance, the large-eared cultivator snorted coldly and said arrogantly, "Come here, I have something to tell you." "Are you an idiot?" Ning Yu widened his mouth as he looked at the big-eared cultivator as if he was looking at a fool. "A puny initial phase heavenly sovereign dares to speak to me in this manner? For a martial artist like you, I don't even need to do anything. You'll be decapitated." After being ridiculed by Ning Yu in front of so many people, The big-eared martial artist roared towards the sky. Originally, the big-eared warrior wanted to show off in front of defy. He wanted to use a scheme to lure Ningyu over. Then, he would kill him forcefully and snatch the life-prolonging elixir from defy. However, Ningyu knew that there was something wrong with the big-eared martial artist's plan, even if he thought with his toes. Ningyu was very puzzled. How did the big-eared martial artist come up with such a stupid idea? Whoosh! The big-eared martial artist, who was in a state of rage, suddenly rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu. As he charged, the big-eared martial artist shouted, "Take my punch if you have the gut." Ningyu's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the big-eared martial artists charging at him. He immediately waved his hand, signaling Hu Wentian and the 10 nine-tailed foxes to retreat first. As for Zhao Lin, she obediently took a few steps back. Don't tell me that kid is really going to fight head-on with the big-eared martial artist. Now that you mention it, it's really possible. Damn it, I originally thought that the big-eared martial artist was an idiot, but now it seems that he is very smart, actually grasping the weakness of that brat's arrogance. Ari, that longevity pill seems to be 80% his. There's nothing we can do about it. This is fate. Who asked us to be less intelligent than those big-eared martial artists? The sounds of discussion drifted into Ningyu's ears, making Ningyu feel like King a dog. Damn it, I really don't know if these old farts are laughing at the big-eared martial artists, or if their intelligence is really that low. If they are laughing at the big-eared martial artists, it would be fine, but if their intelligence is really that low, then it bodes ill rather than well. Because a few words from Emperor Feng could sway those with low intelligence and make them work for him. Kid, this is your own stupidity, don't blame me. The big-eared martial artist was about to reach Ningyu, but Ningyu had no intention of making a move. The big-eared martial artist couldn't help but let out a sinister smile. Just as the smile appeared, the big-eared martial artist's face changed. Ningyu didn't make a move, but the 5 stone beetles behind Ningyu flapped their wings and dashed out. 5 pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm stone beetles were extremely terrifying. Not to mention the big-eared martial artist at the initial stage of Sky Supreme, even if he was at the middle stage of Sky Supreme, they could still fight. Before he died, the big-eared martial artist let out a hysterical scream, his face filled with unwillingness. Using all his strength, the big-eared martial artist turned his head, wanting to look at the peak Sky Supreme behind him. But it was a pity. Under the leadership of the Stone Beetle leader, the remaining 4 stone beetles were full of vigor, their combat power off the charts. It only took a few seconds to kill the big-eared early-stage Sky Supreme. Then, the Stone Beetle leader devoured the big-eared martial artist in a frenzy. 3 minutes later, the big-eared martial artist was reduced to a piece of human skin. Gulp. Everything came and went quickly. Everyone was shocked to see the stone beetles beside Ningyu kill the big-eared martial artist in just a few minutes. Actually, these martial artists had already seen through the big-eared martial artist's stupidity, but they didn't make it clear, because they wanted to see if Ningyu had a trump card. After all, the martial artists who could come here were all Sky Supreme, but Ningyu was only an Earth Supreme. This raised everyone's suspicions. As expected, Ningyu didn't make a move, but the stone beetles beside him killed the big-eared martial artist, which was out of everyone's expectations. It could be said that, aside from the 100-armed devil, Di Feng, and a few other martial artists who had dealt with Ningyu before, everyone in the hall thought that Ningyu was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. They thought that Ningyu was some old monster. It's best not to provoke such a person. At this moment, everyone had the same thought in their minds. No matter how good the longevity pill was, one had to be alive to obtain it. It wouldn't be good if they lost their lives after obtaining the elixir, just like the big-eared martial artist. Trash. Di Feng's face was ashen as he clenched his fists and barked, "What AF * King Trash?" Ningyu didn't care about everyone's gazes. His perception fell on the stone beetle leader. To his surprise, Ningyu realized that the stone beetle leader was a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. This discovery made Ningyu want to curse. You've devoured a few Sky Supremes, but you're still stuck at the 9th grade Earth Supreme. After a while, the cultivation of your subordinates might even surpass you. I'd like to see how much energy the stone beetle leader needs to advance. Ningyu decided to give all the energy he plundered to the stone beetle leader for it to devour. Ningyu had never seen a big eater like the stone beetle leader. The stone beetle leader's performance was comparable to the Dark Emperor's. If the Dark Emperor woke up, he might have to compete with the stone beetle leader for energy again. I wonder how the law of space is now. Thinking of the Dark Emperor, Ningyu couldn't help but think of the law of space. When he left Giant Shield City, the law of space transformed into Di Lingtian's appearance and went to the Moling mountain range to investigate. Now that he had entered the deepest part of the Moling mountain range and found the Saint Grade Yuan crystal mine, he still hadn't seen the law of space. You dare to kill my brother? Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to connect with the space law, another earth-shattering roar resounded in his ears, shaking his ears to the point where they were swollen and painful. Retracting his thoughts, Ningyu looked in the direction of the roar. Ningyu was dumbfounded by what he saw. The martial artist he had just killed had bigger ears. Chapter 1652. What a weirdo. What a weirdo. The big-eared cultivator was the younger brother, while the small-eared cultivator was the older brother. According to normal logic, the big-eared cultivator was the older brother, while the small-eared cultivator was the younger brother. This situation was a little out of Ningyu's expectations. However, Ningyu's attention was only attracted by the small-eared cultivator for a second. His attention quickly fell on the Pinnacle Sky Supreme cultivator beside the small-eared cultivator. The Pinnacle Sky Supreme cultivator beside the small-eared cultivator was about 40 years old. He had a high nose bridge and a long chin, which made him look a little like the side. Could the three of them be from the side? Ningyu's mind began to race. Big-eared, small-eared, and now there was a cultivator with a high nose bridge and a long chin. All things considered, Ningyu believed that there was an 80% chance that the three of them were side. Brat, you killed my disciple. Shouldn't you show me something? The high-nosed cultivator patted the small-eared cultivator's shoulder, indicating for him to calm down. Then, he began to walk toward Ningyu. The high-nosed cultivator looked slow, but he was ridiculously fast. In the blink of an eye, the high-nosed cultivator appeared in front of Ningyu. He was only 3 steps away from Ningyu. At this distance, if the high-nosed cultivator wanted to kill Ningyu, Ningyu would have been decapitated. What do you want? Ningyu faced the high-nosed cultivator fearlessly. Under my deterrence, you are still able to remain calm and composed. Very good indeed. The high-nosed cultivator was a little surprised by Ningyu's reaction. He nodded slightly and said, "You killed my disciple. I won't make things difficult for you. I just want to borrow your head." Hihi, there are many who want my head. I wonder if you have the ability. Ningyu's lips curled into a faint smile. Ningyu, on the other hand, appeared to be very calm, but Hu Wentian, who was behind him, was extremely nervous. Hu Wentian's attention was always on the high-nosed martial artist. As long as the high-nosed martial artist dared to make a move against Ningyu, Hu Wentian would be the first to act. No matter what, protecting Ningyu was the best choice. I lack everything, but I don't lack abilities. The high-nosed martial artist shrugged his shoulders, not angered by Ningyu's words. However, what everyone did not know was that while the cultivator with the high-nose bridge was talking to Ningyu on the surface, he was also secretly talking to Ningyu. Are you sure the pill in Di Feng's hand isn't the life extension pill? The high-nosed martial artist asked telepathically. Yes, and definitely, Ningyu replied. What proof do you have? The martial artist with a high nose was still in disbelief and continued to ask. The life-prolonging elixir is a high-class elixir. Its quality is at least a peak grade 9 elixir. Although the elixir in Di Feng's hand looks similar to the life-prolonging elixir, the aura it gives off isn't the aura of the life-prolonging elixir. Ningyu thought about it and decided to tell the truth to the cultivator with a high-nose bridge. After all, there weren't many martial artists like the cultivator with a high-nose bridge who could adapt to circumstances. It would be great if he could flip one of them or find out about Di Feng's conspiracy from the cultivator with a high-nose bridge. I hope what you said is true. I believe you this time. The cultivator with a high-nose bridge pondered for a while and said in a deep voice, I won't kill you. I killed your disciple. Don't you want to take revenge? Ningyu glanced at the cultivator with big ears who was left with a piece of human skin and said, He isn't my disciple. The cultivator with a high-nose bridge glanced at the cultivator with big ears and added, The cultivator with small ears isn't my disciple either. It's much easier if he isn't your disciple. I have another question. Ningyu revealed a relieved expression. As the cultivator with big ears wasn't the disciple of the cultivator with a high-nose bridge and he got along well with the cultivator with a high-nose bridge, why not chat more and exchange views? Speak, the cultivator with a high-nose bridge said coldly. I roughly observed. Besides a few warriors, the rest of the warriors are more or less injured. The longest lifespan is only 100 years. I would like to ask if you were cheated by Imperial Peak? Imperial Peak. Imperial Peak didn't seem to care about Imperial Peak at all. Ningyu went straight to the point. He didn't bullshit with the cultivator with a high-nose bridge. You think Di Feng cheated us? The cultivator with a high-nose bridge's face grew cold as he asked in a deep voice. Di Feng is from Emperor Palace. I don't think I need to explain the reputation of Emperor Palace, right? Ningyu shrugged. Then, Ningyu told the cultivator with a high-nose bridge how Di Feng surrounded them and wanted to refine them. From the cultivator with a high-nose bridge, Ningyu saw a glimmer of hope. Alliance. Only by forming an alliance with the cultivator with a high-nose bridge could he gain a foothold in the hall. By pulling the people who were cheated by Di Feng over, they could go against Di Feng and Emperor Palace. By then, Ningyu could basically tell that Di Feng definitely had a plan and he was going to execute it half an hour later. Once Di Feng's plan was executed, the situation would become extremely dangerous. Hence, Ningyu's idea was simple. Before Di Feng executed his plan, he would attack Di Feng first. As long as he controlled Di Feng and forced him to reveal some secrets, they would be invincible. Let me think. The cultivator with a high-nose bridge didn't answer Ningyu immediately. Then, he moved back to where he was earlier. The cultivator with a high-nose bridge's action caused the surrounding martial artists to discuss among themselves. What's going on? Why didn't he kill the brat? Could he be afraid of the Peak Heaven Supreme Expert behind the brat? I don't think so. At such a distance, the brat would definitely die if he attacked. Everyone was shocked. Theoretically, the cultivator with a high-nose bridge would definitely kill Ningyu unconditionally in front of the longevity elixir. However, what happened was beyond most of the martial artists' expectations. What the H*LL, especially Di Feng, his face turned green. He didn't know why, but when the cultivator with a high-nose bridge retreated, Di Feng felt that something was wrong. Di Feng even had the urge to take action earlier. However, thinking that there was no movement from the crystal coffin, Di Feng gave up on the idea and decided to wait and see. It wasn't a problem to kill Ningyu. However, the prerequisite was that there was movement from the crystal coffin. I'll let you live for a while longer, Di Feng said fiercely. Di Feng knew about the death of Di Shitian and the two late Heaven Supreme experts. Without a doubt, Di Feng blamed the death of Di Shitian and the two late Heaven Supreme experts on Ningyu. Di Feng's hatred towards Ningyu had reached its peak. He couldn't wait to kill Ningyu. Cough, cough. Just then, Ningyu coughed and said, I believe everyone is the same as me. You're here to see what's in the crystal coffin. Speaking of this, Ningyu paused for a moment and then continued. I can tell you clearly that Di Feng knows what's in the crystal coffin. Plus, Di Feng has opened the crystal coffin before us. Chapter 1653. Chapter 1653. Chapter 1653. Chapter 1653. Anti-alliance. Ningyu's words caused an uproar in the hall. There was someone in the crystal coffin? And someone from Emperor God Palace? Everyone shifted their gaze to Di Feng, who was the closest to the crystal coffin. They wanted to hear Di Feng's explanation. Damn it. Di Feng couldn't help cursing in his heart when he saw everyone looking at him. He even glared at Ningyu. He had spent so much effort to trick so many heavenly sovereigns into the hall. Just as his plan was about to be executed, who would have thought that there would be a mistake at this moment? No matter how much he calculated, he didn't expect Ningyu to be like this. Taking a deep breath, Di Feng swept his gaze across the crowd in the hall and said loudly, "Most of you are my friends and we have a good relationship. Could it be that you are suspecting me just because of what Ningyu said?" That was all Di Feng said. After saying that, he placed his hands behind his back and coldly looked at Ningyu, not saying a word. It seemed that Di Feng was charismatic. The confidence of the martial artists in the hall started to waver. A few moments later, a martial artist defended Di Feng. "Don't listen to Ningyu's nonsense. He's just a first-grade Earth sovereign. I'm afraid he doesn't even know what the crystal coffin is. How would he know that there's someone in it?" The martial artist who spoke was an old man dressed in grey robes. The elder's cultivation was at the initial phase of Heavenly Supreme. Looking closely, he was a one-armed man. The one-armed elder didn't just defend himself, he also shifted his gaze to the other two middle-aged martial artists. Dong! Dong! The next moment, the two middle-aged martial artists that the one-armed elder was staring at took a step forward and spoke in unison. "There are many magical treasures and elixirs in the crystal coffin. There are also many longevity elixirs. Di Feng must have his reasons for not opening the crystal coffin. Now that Ningyu has come out to refute Di Feng, we brothers will get rid of him for Di Feng." Swoosh! Swoosh! The two middle-aged men moved without hesitation. They turned into two shadows and charged at Ningyu from two different directions. Mid-stage Heavenly Supreme, the two of them were in the middle phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm, reaching the pinnacle of the middle phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm, only half a step away from the late phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm. Shaw. Because the stone beetles had just experienced a fierce battle, it was not a good time for them to attack again. Therefore, Hu Wantian's body flickered. He wanted to block the two middle-aged men's attacks for Ningyu. Xiao. Before Hu Wentian could even move, he felt several auras locking onto him. All of them were at the pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign Realm. Although Hu Wantian's cultivation was in the pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign Realm, he still felt an unprecedented pressure being locked onto by several cultivators of the same cultivation. The current situation was very clear. If Hu Wentian dared to make a move for Ningyu, then there was an 80% chance that he would be surrounded by several pinnacle heavenly sovereigns. Hu Wentian was a nine-tailed demonic fox, so it was possible for him to take on 2 or even 3 of them at once. However, Hu Wentian didn't have much confidence in taking on 10 of them at once. For a moment, Hu Wentian was stunned on the spot, not knowing if he should make a move. Ha, you're still alive this time. Hu Wentian was stunned. The most excited cultivator was Di Feng. As long as Hu Wentian was stopped, Ningyu would definitely die. I can finally get rid of this thorn in my side. Looking at the two middle-aged men getting closer to Ningyu, the corner of Di Feng's lips curled up. Rumble. However, there was always an unpredictable storm. Just as Di Feng was imagining the scene of Ningyu being killed, something shocking happened. The cultivator with the high nose moved and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye, blocking the fatal attacks from the two middle-aged men for Ningyu. Fart. Not only did the cultivator with the high nose defeat the middle-aged man, but he even beat him up until he vomited blood. After vomiting a mouthful of blood, the two middle-aged men retreated like deflated balloons. Gao Zhengde. Seeing that not only did the two middle-aged men not kill Ningyu, but they were also defeated by the cultivator with the high nose, Di Feng's face grew grave. Di Feng extended his right hand and pointed at the cultivator with the high nose. He said coldly, "You have to give me an explanation." Gao Zhengde, who was also the cultivator with the high nose, looked calm. There wasn't any joy or anger on his face. An indifferent voice was heard from his mouth. "Open the crystal coffin. I want to see what's inside." Swoosh. Half of the cultivators in the hall flew behind Gao Zhengde and stood on the same side as him. Swoosh. As for the remaining half of the warriors, besides a small portion of them standing on the spot and watching, The rest flew to Di Feng's side and chose to advance and retreat together with Di Feng. Good, very good. Di Feng's face turned green as anger filled his eyes. However, Di Feng suppressed his anger very quickly. Taking a deep breath, Di Feng shifted his gaze to the neutral cultivators and said, "After killing Jiao Zhengde and the rest, everyone will get a longevity elixir." Rumble. The neutral cultivators were in an uproar. They had been invited here to get the elixir to extend their lifespans. Now that the opportunity was right in front of them, how could they give it up? Swoosh. Without hesitation, the neutral cultivators moved to Di Feng's side. Stupid. Ningyu was dumbfounded to see Di Feng use the fake longevity elixir to settle the neutral cultivators. In this world, there were indeed a lot of stupid people, too many to count. What do you guys think? Di Feng wasn't satisfied after settling the neutral cultivators. He turned his attention to the 100-armed devil and the rest. The 100-armed devil, the short and fat old man, and the 3-peak heaven supreme demonic beasts. This force was extraordinary. If they could convince the few of them, the fighting power of Di Feng's group would instantly soar to another level. Nothing much. The 100-armed devil was the first to reply. She didn't even look at Di Feng. She flew to the corner of the hall and closed her eyes to rest. After the 100-armed devil left, the short and fat old man stared at Di Feng and flew to the other corner to coordinate with the 100-armed devil. "Let our companions go and we can form an alliance with you." The 3-peak heaven supreme demonic beasts didn't reject Di Feng immediately. Instead, they started negotiating with him. The 3-pinnacle sky supreme demonic beasts had entered the Saint-grade primal crystal mine to rescue their 5 companions. Now that they had a chance to save their companions, they wouldn't hesitate even if it was just a Yuanshan. "I can make an oath. As long as you form an alliance with me and kill Ningyu, I will immediately let your companions go." Seeing that there was hope, Di Feng flicked his wrist and a piece of crystal appeared in his hand. Chapter 1654. A desperate move. Throw the crystal over. Looking at the crystal in Di Feng's hand, the 3-peak heaven supreme beasts' faces grew grave and roared in unison. Without a doubt. The 5 primordial spirits in the crystal were the 3-peak heaven supreme beasts' companions. Hee, don't rush. As long as you help me kill Ningyu and the rest, I'll throw the crystal over immediately. Di Feng shook the crystal in his hand and smiled faintly. "It's up to you to agree to my terms. I won't force you." Although Di Feng had the evidence, the 3 beasts didn't lose their minds. They knew clearly that even if they agreed to Di Feng's terms, he would definitely not return the crystal to them. The best solution was to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. They would wait for Di Feng and Ningyu to finish their fight, then they would suddenly take action to snatch the crystal. 2 of the 3 beasts were tall and 1 was short. After pondering for a while, the short beast sent a telepathic message to the 2 taller beasts. "We can wait and see. We won't help either side." What if Di Feng is desperate? One of the taller beasts was worried. Not only was the one who spoke taller, but he was also taller. He was a brawny beast. In comparison, the taller beast was thinner. His weight was only half of the brawny beast's. If Imperial Peak were to act out of desperation, we would have failed our mission this time. Not only was the brawny beast worried, but the thinner beast was also worried. He was even more worried than the brawny beast. The thinner beast clenched his teeth and said fiercely, "Why don't we pretend to agree to Di Feng's terms? Then, we will suddenly attack and subdue Di Feng." "How can Di Feng be subdued so easily?" The shorter beast shook his head and said, "There's a terrifying aura in Di Feng's body. Even I feel fearful." "What?" The brawny beast and the thinner beast were shocked. Although the shorter demonic beast was relatively short, its combat strength was the strongest among the 3 demonic beasts. Even he felt fearful. From this, it could be seen that Di Feng definitely had a powerful trump card. As long as Ningyu and the others are around, Di Feng won't dare to do anything because he's afraid we'll stand on Ningyu's side. The shorter demonic beast had a more thorough understanding of the situation. He said in a low voice, Just like what I said earlier, let's wait and see first. Let's not help either side. As he spoke, the shorter demonic beast stomped on the ground and flew to the other side, closing his eyes to rest. Whoosh, whoosh. The tall and sturdy demonic beast and the thin demonic beast moved their bodies and landed beside the shorter demonic beast. They also closed their eyes and rested. As expected of an old fox, Defy couldn't help but curse when he saw that the beasts didn't agree to his request. Instead, they retreated to the other side. 100-armed devil and the short and fat beast had already chosen to remain neutral. Now that the stalwart beast and the rest had chosen to remain neutral, it had caused Imperial Peak's side to lose their advantage. Moreover, in terms of high-end fighting power, Imperial Peak was even behind Ningyu. On Imperial Peak's side, there were 3 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors. Other than Defy, there were 2 other Peak Heavenly Supreme Warriors, Tang Mo and Tang Jiyu. On Ningyu's side, there were 4 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors. Other than Hu Wentian and Jiao Zhengde, there were 2 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors, Zhon Yi and Zhon Ming. At their level, if they were to fight again, it would be a competition of high-end fighting power. After all, a Peak Heaven Supreme Warrior could instantly kill many early Heaven Supreme Warriors. Defy, I'm giving you one last chance. Jiao Zhengde saw that there were only 3 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors on Imperial Peak's side. He said coldly, "Open the crystal coffin." Otherwise, at this point, Jiao Zhengde paused for a moment before he said coldly, "Die. Rumble." As Jiao Zhengde uttered the word die, 4 terrifying auras soared into the sky. Without a doubt, the 4 auras came from Jiao Zhengde, Hu Wentian, Zhon Yi and Zhon Ming. The 4 auras pressed down on Imperial Peak and the rest. Rumble. At the same time, there were 3 terrifying auras that soared into the sky from Imperial Peak's side. Pest, pest, pest. 7 auras collided with each other. The terrifying impact wave spread in all directions. Everyone, quickly use your Yuan Qi to resist this shockwave. The 7 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors' auras collided with each other, and the impact wave that spread in all directions was enough to make an early Heaven Supreme Warrior tremble in fear. However, Ningyu and Zhao Lin were the ones who were the most frightened. After all, Ningyu and Zhao Lin had the lowest cultivation base in the hall. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 10 nine-tailed demon foxes moved and surrounded Ningyu and Zhao Lin. Then, they unleashed their energy to form a protective shield. Swoosh. Then, the remaining warriors jumped into the protective shield to maintain the safety of the protective shield with the nine-tailed demon foxes. On the other side, the warriors on Imperial Peak's side also hid in their own region. Vigorous energy surged from their bodies. The only unfortunate thing was that the place where the warriors on Imperial Peak's side hid was very close to the crystal coffin. It could be said to be very close. However, the battle was imminent. No one had the mood to care about the crystal coffin. They were afraid that they would be killed if they let their guard down. Imperial Peak, are you going to open the crystal coffin or not? Although he had suppressed Imperial Peak in terms of aura, Jiao Zhengde wasn't at ease. On the contrary, Jiao Zhengde was worried. Defy was so calm when 3 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors were up against 4 Peak Heaven Supreme Warriors. It was enough to show that Defy had a powerful trump card. A cornered dog would jump over a wall. If Defy was pressured too much, Defy might jump over the wall. Then, Defy wouldn't feel that he had no way out. Then, Defy would feel that there was hope. Oh no, the crystal coffin is opening. Ningyu, you must help me snatch the World Tree branch. While Defy and Jiao Zhengde were confronting each other, an anxious voice rang in Ningyu's head. Sapling. Ningyu was stunned. Wasn't the sapling in seclusion after swallowing a lot of sage-grade raw crystals? Why would the sapling wake up at this moment? No. Suddenly, Ningyu's face changed. Ningyu's attention had been on why the sapling had woken up. He hadn't noticed what the sapling had said. Now that he recalled it, Ningyu's face changed. If the crystal coffin were to be opened, the entire hall would definitely become hell on earth. Because, Even if it was the World Tree Branch, everyone would definitely fight for it. If there were other elixirs or treasures in the crystal coffin, the consequences would be unimaginable. The crystal coffin will only open for a few more minutes. Ningyu took a deep breath and tried his best to calm himself down. At this moment, he had to stay calm and not panic. As he asked the sapling, Ningyu instructed the leader stone beetle to bring the 4 stone beetles to the crystal coffin from 4 different directions. Ningyu knew that he wouldn't be able to snatch anything with his power, let alone the World Tree Branch. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.